You used your full power now. It seems that you really want to finish this battle soon. But that's fine, because I've played around with you enough as well. I'll let you know the distance between you and me right now." As he swept his gaze towards the cold air fierce beasts around him, a cold smile was raised from the corner of Chu Feng's mouth. He did not move, and he only slowly closed his eyes. Look, what is Chu Feng doing? Did he give up? As he faces the cold ice atmosphere from Gong Lu Yun, he is powerless to reverse the situation, and he is preparing to die. Chu Feng's actions were seen by some people, and they felt that Chu Feng wanted to give up. But at the next instant, they discovered that they could not be more wrong. Asterisk whoosh asterisk suddenly, Chu Feng suddenly widened his eyes that were closed. At the same time, incomparably strong pressure spread out from within his body, and it engulfed the entire fighting stage. After that pressure descended onto the fighting stage, with the border of the stage as the end, the sky and ground within the zone started to tremble, and the cold ice atmosphere immediately crumbled and disappeared in the air. At the same time that the cold ice atmosphere disappeared, Gong Luyun also knelt onto the ground with a poof. He who had a mad smile before had a face as white as paper. His eyes were filled with fear and his entire body was trembling. Heavens! What happened? Why did the cold ice atmosphere suddenly disappear? What is happening to the sky and ground over there? Why is the air trembling above the fighting stage? Everyone was shocked by the sudden change. They couldn't feel the pressure at that place, but they could still see the scene in which the air was trembling, as if some pressure forced the area over there to yield. Even if they were beaten to death, they never would have thought that it was a martial skill that had been lost for many years. It was a rank 7 martial skill, the Blade of the Void Dragon's Cry that Chu Feng got from the Void School. For the past half a year, Chu Feng did not always search for profound medicines in the Valley of 100 Bends. He fought monstrous beasts every day, and it caused his battle power to rise. He also found the time to cultivate the rank 7 martial skill, the Blade of the Void Dragon's Cry. As he cultivated, he unexpectedly discovered that the Blade of the Void Dragon's Cry was truly a very mysterious martial skill. The cultivation difficulty was extremely high, but its power was extremely strong as well. If it was mastered, it wouldn't be a rank 7 martial skill. It would be a rank 8 martial skill. As the Blade of the Void Dragon's Cry was quite difficult to cultivate, even Chu Feng only grasped the first step of it, Void. Although it was only the first step, it still had the power of a rank 7 martial skill. What he was using at that moment was void pressure. With formless pressure, one could do whatever he wished in that area. It could shatter any formless attacks, or any formed attacks. Without even moving, it could force the enemy to yield and crush the enemy to death. This feeling, it is absolutely not simple pressure, nor would it be some sort of treasure. There is origin power lingering around it, so it must be a martial skill. A very profound martial skill. It seems that this Chu Feng really grasps a rank 6 martial skill, and it's even a rank 6 martial skill that's more profound than the cold ice atmosphere. Finally, people who had sharp eyes saw that the distorted space was caused by the martial skill Chu Feng was using. After that person spoke, an uproar was risen. Although they could not feel the pressure in that area, just by looking at the distorted scene, they could imagine how strong the martial skill was. Even many big characters who were in the arena never heard or seen it before, let alone the disciples. At that instant, everyone was already completely dumbfounded by the strength Chu Feng displayed. Even though they knew that Chu Feng was strong and that he was a genius, they never would have thought that Chu Feng's strength would reach that state. Truly, with the cultivation of the 7th level of the Origin Realm, he defeated Gong Lu Yun, who was in the 4th level of the Profound Realm. Chu Feng simply did an unprecedented action and created an impossible miracle. Damn it! How did this happen? I, Gong Lu Yu, am defeated by this brat. How is this possible? Gong Lu Yun knelt on the floor, and even if he wanted to stand up while using the power from his entire body, it was impossible for him to fight against the formless pressure. That made him feel powerless and even fear. For the first time, He recognized Chu Feng's powerful strength, and Chu Feng's powerful strength was something that he did not want to see, especially at this time when it related to his own life. Step by step, the current Chu Feng walked towards Gong Luyun. As he looked at Gong Luyun, who knelt in front of him, he lightly smiled and said, "Gong Luyun, 1 year ago, have you ever thought you would kneel in front of me today? Ha, Chu Feng, if you want to kill or cut me, feel free. But I'm warning you, if you dare to even touch one of my fingers, I guarantee that you will not leave this place alive. The 1,000,000 disciples from the Azure Dragon School will die. Even your World Spirit Guild dog legs will be affected by you and all die in this place." Gong Luyun had no strength to stand up by the formless pressure. He could only kneel in front of Chu Feng. However, not only did he not give in, he even threatened with malicious words. "Oh, even right now you dare to threaten me. Do you think you're qualified? Knock your head to the ground and admit your wrongs." Suddenly, Chu Feng's expression became incomparably sinister. The fury that he hiddenly endured in his heart was all instantly revealed. The humiliation that he suffered that year was not much, but the great hatred of his family's extermination had to be avenged. Chu Feng grabbed Gong Luyun's hair and powerfully pushed it down. With a bang, Gong Luyun's brain fiercely slammed onto the incomparably hard ground. When his head was pulled back up by Chu Feng, blood flowed from his forehead. "This is for my grandfather. This is for my father." But that was not all. Chu Feng strongly grabbed Gong Luyun's hair and kept on slamming it to the ground. For every hit, he would say the name of a Chu family member who died. Knocks like that were done several hundred times. After all the names of the Chu family member who died were spoken, Chu Feng still did not stop, because it was not possible for that to drain away the hatred towards Gong Luyun. After all that, nothing was the same on Gong Luyun's face, as blood and flesh were mixed all together. Even a deep hole was formed on the hard ground, and countless cracks spread from that hole. People's souls were shaken as they looked at that scene. From Chu Feng's actions, they could tell that the two of them must have some hatred between them, or else Chu Feng would not have humiliated Gong Luyun like that. However, at the same time, they had an answer in their hearts. It was that the outcome of today's arranged battle was already determined, and the victor was Chu Feng, who no one had expectations from. Although they felt disbelief, they did indeed personally witness everything. They saw Chu Feng suppress Gong Luyun step by step. They had no choice but to admit that when Gong Luyun was kneeling, and when his head was endlessly slamming onto the ground, Chu Feng was a true genius, a terrifying monster to the point that it surpassed people's imaginations. Certainly, in the future, such a person would not be confined to the little Azure Dragon School. The young man had the potential to move unobstructedly in the continent of the 9 provinces in the future. At that instant, the disciples started to cast gazes of worship towards Chu Feng. Even the peak disciples of other schools were no exception. They admired Chu Feng's frightening battle power. As for the school heads and elders from other schools, they endlessly admired the Azure Dragon School, since such an outstanding disciple appeared. As long as Chu Feng was there, the future Azure Dragon School would absolutely not be as unknown and as silent as right now. Sooner or later, it would become a huge summit in the Azure province, and perhaps with Chu Feng, it could even return to its flourishing past. Gong Luyun, I cannot disperse the hatred towards you even if I killed you 10,000 times, because of the evils that you committed by killing my Chu family. You alone cannot eradicate my hatred towards you. I will send everyone related to you down with you." Chu Feng said as he tightly grabbed Gong Luyun's hair and saw his bloody and disfigured face. Even though the current Gong Luyun seemed abnormally frightening, it was not comparable to the fierceness on Chu Feng's face. The anger that he suppressed in his heart for a long time all emerged today. It was truly not removable by a few simple words or killing a few people. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. Naturally, the debt of blood of the Chu family's extermination was going to be paid back several times. The price would be all of Gong Luyun's relatives, and Chu Feng wanted all of them to die with him. Ho, Chu Feng, you truly think too highly of yourself. Do you really think you can kill me? If you feel you can, go ahead and try. Gong Luyun actually smiled, and his smile was full of confidence. You feel that I can't. That's fine. I'll let you see whether I can or not. Chu Feng flung his leg up and it kicked Gong Luyun's jaws. Strong power threw Gong Luyun into the air, and after a few flips, he fell back down. Ah! After landing back down, Gong Luyun miserably cried out. Chu Feng's kick caused his jaw to shatter, and the pain was unendurable. Asterisk at the same time. Chu Feng raised his foot and stamped on Gong Luyun's arm. He clenched his right hand, and a golden-colored big chopper blade condensed in his hand. His face was sinister, and the corner of his mouth formed an evil cold smile. He looked at Gong Luyun and indifferently said, "You said that if I dare to touch one of your fingers, there would be a calamity. That's fine, I'll touch 5 of your fingers." Asterisk whoosh asterisk after speaking, the big blade in Chu Feng's hand formed into a golden blur, and it landed on Gong Luyun's hand, forcibly cutting off 5 of his fingers. Ah tilde tilde tilde. The pain of a finger being cut off made Gong Luyun, who just calmed down, to wretchedly scream again. As the proverb said, the 10 fingers connect to the heart. That pain was certainly not imaginable by normal people. The most important thing was the importance of fingers to a person like Gong Luyun. He could simply not endure, as he had his 5 fingers cut off. To him, most likely the pain in his heart was greater than the pain from his body. The current Gong Luyun could not speak anymore. He could only unceasingly howl in pain, but within his eyes, killing intent overflowed everywhere and cold glares surged. He fiercely glared at Chu Feng as if saying, "You're dead. You're dead. You dare to do this to me. You are absolutely dead." What? You like it very much? Okay, I'll help you out. I'll let you become a person with no fingers. However, would Chu Feng be afraid of him? The big blade in his hand sliced down again, and the other 5 fingers from Gong Luyun's other hand were chopped off again. Heavens, this. The scene on the stage caused everyone's soul to be frightened. Although they knew who won and who lost, and the result had already been set, they never would have thought that Chu Feng did not quickly kill Gong Luyun. Instead, bit by bit, he destroyed Gong Luyun's body in front of the crowd. To Gong Luyun, not only was it physical torture, it was also mental torture. Although he, Gong Luyun, was quite a character in the Azure province, Chu Feng was only famous in the Azure Dragon School. In reality, in the Azure province, he was an unknown little character. However, at that moment, a big character like him, who he recognized himself as unordinary, was being ruined by a small character like Chu Feng. To him, that was undoubtedly the biggest humiliation possible. Chu Feng's methods are really ruthless. If today's matter gets spread out, it would not be possible for Gong Luyun to raise his head up again in the Azure province. If I had to say something, it would be that this Chu Feng is too insane. Has he forgotten about Gong Tianping? Has he forgotten about Lin Ran? Will those people allow Chu Feng to torment Gong Luyun like that, and will they just ignore it? Today, Lin Ran isn't even here, although Gong Tianping is indeed strong. Have you not seen the big characters from the World Spirit Guild? If Gong Tianping dares to break the rules and interfere, I think that he will need to check what he has, and whether he is able to offend the people from the World Spirit Guild or not. At that very instant, the observing people went into a mess. When the battle arrived at that state, people yearned to see how it would end, and whether the 2 huge powers behind the 2 geniuses would have any actions or not. Many people looked forward to a good show, and they looked forward to the protection from the powers behind the 2 geniuses. However, some people felt that it was impossible as well. Although the 2 powers were extremely strong, exactly because their status was high, they could not ignore and break the rules of the life and death battle. Only Chu Feng and Gong Luyun were the main characters in today's arranged battle. Everyone else were only observers on the side. But some people also felt that for the sake of family affection, anything was possible. Gong Tianping would absolutely not only stare as his own son was dying and not save him. As long as Chu Feng really intended to kill, even if Gong Tianping gave up his life, he would have actions. As for Lin Ran, he doted on Gong Luyun so much that he even passed all of the unique martial skills from the Qilin Prince's mansion down to Gong Luyun. How could he only look and do nothing as his foster grandson was being tormented and killed like that? Stop! Finally, an angry bellow exploded out from a certain area in the guests' viewing seats. Following that, a large number of people stood up from those seats and charged towards the fighting stage. Those people were exactly the people from the Black Tortoise City, and the person who yelled out was Gong Luyun's father, the city lord of the Black Tortoise City, Gong Tianping. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk. At the same time that the people from the Black Tortoise City moved, Zhuge Liuyun and the 6 protectors also suddenly rushed down from the viewing seats and stopped in front of the Black Tortoise City's army. Gong Tianping, this is a life and death stage. In this place, life and death will depend on themselves and no one can interfere. From your current actions, do you plan to break the rules? Zhuge Liuyun loudly questioned. Screw your damn rules. Today, I will take my son away. I kill anyone who blocks me, and I won't even give face to God. However, Gong Tianping was as though he lost all rationality. He waved his big sleeve, and strong gale flew Zhuge Liuyun and the 6 protectors away. He was truly determined to take Gong Luyun away, no matter what. But quickly after, soft wind descended from the sky and slowly allowed Zhuge Liuyun and the others who were in the air to land, and they were not harmed in any way. Look what's happening. Everyone was shocked at that sudden scene. Even Gong Tianping wouldn't help but be taken aback, because clearly there was an expert who saved Zhuge Liuyun and the others. At that instant, everyone cast their gazes towards the people from the World Spirit Guild, but they discovered that the group of people were still sitting where they were, and they didn't even move. Looking at how they were, it seemed that they did not plan to interfere with the matter in front of them. As everyone was guessing who helped Zhuge Liuyun and the others, an aged voice rang out in that area. Gong Tianping, if you want to ignore my Azure Dragon School's rules, it will need to depend whether you are capable or not. Such a powerful voice successfully became the focus of everyone. After they cast their gazes towards that person, everyone who was on scene couldn't help but be stunned, especially the core disciples and the core elders from the Azure Dragon School. Their faces were full of shock, and their expressions were as wonderful as they could get. From the corner, a familiar figure was slowly walking about. An old man who barely had any hair and had a camel back. His clothing was very sloppy, and his appearance was quite unsightly as well. However, at that instant, his body emanated the aura of the 7th level of the profound realm. He was the person who saved Chu Feng from Gong Luyun that day, Elder Lai. Elder Lai, how can it be him? He's an expert of the 7th level of the profound realm. At that instant, not to mention others, even Chu Feng, who was saved by Elder Lai before, was greatly surprised because no one could have thought that an elder who guarded the entrance in the Azure Dragon School had that kind of strength. Some first-rate school heads did not even have cultivation at that level. Who are you? Naturally, Gong Tianping did not recognize Elder Lai, but the aura that was emanating from Elder Li's body forced him to seriously treat it. Although they were both in the 7th level of the profound realm, the aura on Elder Li's body was thicker. It could be seen that the old man stepped into that realm for a long period of time already. I am Li Zhongqing. Elder Lai lightly smiled and said, What, Li Zhongqing? Isn't that the name of the head of the Azure Dragon School? Does this mean that this Elder Lai is my Azure Dragon School's head? But as a school head, why did he become an elder who guarded entrances? After Elder Lai spoke, not to mention the people from the Azure Dragon School, even outsiders were endlessly shocked. The head of the Azure Dragon School was a very mysterious person. Very few people saw his real appearance, and he also very rarely showed himself. However, people knew that he had a name, and it was Li Zhongqing. He is indeed the school head of our Azure Dragon School. In order to dig up some more exceptional disciples, He did not always sit on the high position of the school head. Rather, he concealed his identity and took the position of being an elder guard for the entrance to the Azure Dragon School's core zone. On that day, Gong Luyun wanted to kill Chu Feng, so he personally stopped it. The arranged battle between the two could also be said to be witnessed by him 1 year ago as well. Just at that time, the old lady from the 6 protectors spoke. The other 5 people did not have any expressions of surprise, and Juga Liuyun was also faintly smiling. It could be seen that the several people already knew Elder Li's true identity. As they saw that scene, everyone also believed the identity of Elder Li. However, even more people were shocked as the head of the Azure Dragon School was an expert in the 7th level of the profound realm. With that strength, it could certainly lead the Azure Dragon School to become a first-rate school. So it turned out that the Azure Dragon School was not a second-rate school from the start. On this topic, I was also dragged into the arranged battle from a year ago. On that day, I wagered that Chu Feng would win. So Gong Luyun said that as long as he won, Chu Feng and I would need to kneel down in front of him and admit that we were wrong. Even I worried about that. After all, I am still the head of this school. If I really needed to kneel and admit my wrongs in front of a disciple from my own school, I would truly lose face. But luckily, Chu Feng did not disappoint me. Seeing that his own identity was revealed, Elder Li did not bother hiding anything. With a light smile, and as he stroked several of his dried-out strands of beard on his chin, he made a joke about the beginning of the arranged battle. Li Jiangqing, as the head of a school, you handle things in such an unfair way. You lean towards Chu Feng like this and work together to suppress my son. Do you think you are even qualified to be the head of a school? Seeing that Li Jiangqing talk about his own son in such a way, Gong Tianping pointed at Li Jiangqing's nose and angrily rebuked. I'm unfair. On that day, if I did not come out, your son would have killed a genius from my Azure Dragon School. None of the guests today would be able to see this genius grandeur. Gong Tianping, I have seen every single thing that your son has done. I named him as the #1 disciple because of his talent. However, his character truly makes my heart cold. Although in this world one's cultivation is extremely important, their character is even more important. Or else, no matter how much stronger your cultivation gets, it would only be harmful for the world. Gong Tianping, as Gong Luyun's father, don't you feel that you've taught your son to be unfair, and don't you feel that your son has committed grave sins? Li Jiangping counterasked. HMPH. This is your territory, so whatever you say will be justified. I won't bother wasting my words on you. Quickly let my son go, or else my Black Tortoise City will not be finished with your Azure Dragon School. Gong Tianping angrily yelled. Don't even think about it. This life and death battle was personally witnessed by me. The one who loses will be the one who dies. Chu Feng, Gong Luyun is not righteous, so you don't need to be benevolent. Go ahead. Li Jiangqing did not even put Gong Tianping in his eyes. He waved his hands at Chu Feng and indicated him to kill Gong Luyun. Yes, sir. Chu Feng did not hesitate. He raised the golden-colored blade in his hand, and he made motions to chop Gong Luyun's neck. If you dare to touch my son, I will kill you first. Seeing that, Gong Tianping's expression changed greatly, and he exploded his cultivation of the 7th level of the profound realm out. Layers of profound power kept on spreading out, and it attacked Chu Feng, who was on the fighting stage. Boom, however. Just as the profound power that was like tide surged out, it was completely engulfed by another wave of profound power, and it was held back. If you dare to touch my school's disciple, don't blame me for anything that happens. It turned out that Li Jiangqing did it. Not only did he stop Gong Tianping's attack, he even pushed the boundless profound power from his body towards Gong Tianping and the many Black Tortoise City experts, and attacked all of them at the same time. You old bastard! If anything happens to my son, I will demolish your Azure Dragon School. Gong Tianping was also completely furious. As he gnashed his teeth, he pounced towards Li Jiangqing, and at the same time, the Black Tortoise City army behind him simultaneously attacked as well. At that instant, Juga Liuyun and the Six Protectors originally wanted to help out, but their thoughts were in vain as Li Jianqing waved his hand at them and said, "No need to help. I myself am enough against a mere Black Tortoise City." After Li Jianqing spoke, instantly, a commotion was raised. Many people even suspected that he was boasting. After all, he was also only in the 7th level of the Profound Realm, and in terms of cultivation, he was fairly equal to Gong Tianping. A single Gong Tianping could fight against him. So, on what basis was he going to fight against the entire Black Tortoise City? However, later on, the people who had doubts discovered that they were wrong. Elder Lai did not have overly beautiful martial skills, but every single strike and style were quite bold. He emanated strong power, and as his profound power was being controlled by him, occasionally it would form a screen to block attacks, and occasionally it would form sharp blades to harm an enemy. The old man, who gave off a feeling that he could not even fight against the wind, truly relied on his own power to hold the many experts from the Black Tortoise City away. And looking at his appearance, he even seemed so casual, and he did not even seem to be using any strength. The head of the Azure Dragon School is this strong. At that instant, on the faces of the surrounding observers, other than shock, it was shock, not to mention those from second-rate schools. Even the first-rate school heads that came together with the Black Tortoise City could not remain calm, because the strength that Li Jianqing displayed was completely superior to theirs. I never would have thought that the Azure Dragon School had such a top-level character hidden within it. With his cultivation, the Azure Dragon School could undoubtedly enter the ranks of first-rate schools. Yeah, this Li Jianqing is quite impressive, so it seems that he already discovered a good seedling like Chu Feng a year ago. Right now, for Chu Feng's sake, Li Jianqing decided to fight the Gong family. Although it does not seem reasonable on the surface, in reality, it is an extremely powerful method. He is putting everything on Chu Feng. By helping Chu Feng like this, naturally Chu Feng would feel endlessly touched, and as long as Chu Feng can develop well, the Azure Dragon School would naturally rise as well. You are correct. So it turns out that within the Azure Dragon School, not only did a genius like Chu Feng appear, there was even an old monster like Li Jianqing. It seems like the Azure Dragon School is fated to rise greatly, and another outstanding first-rate school will appear in the Azure Province. Li Jianqing's strength and methods were seen by everyone, so everyone felt that since Chu Feng and Li Jianqing, one young monster and one old monster, appeared in the Azure Dragon School, the school was certainly going to rise quickly in ranks. The various powers had to reevaluate the Azure Dragon School in order to hiddenly calculate whether to befriend the Azure Dragon School or not. They had to decide if they should do that or not before it completely rose in power and before its potential was not discovered by many people. *wa tilde asterisk. But just at that moment, an abnormally loud and clear horn sound rang out from outside of the arena. That sound was extremely strong. It was like a scream, yet also like a dragon's cry. The atmosphere it emitted had boundless awe, and even the sky trembled. This sound, it's the Qilin horn from the Qilin Prince's mansion. Suddenly, a first-rate school disciple yelled in surprise. "What? You said the Qilin horn from the Qilin Prince's mansion? Isn't it the horn that only gets blown when the Qilin Prince's mansion has an emergency, or when they attack? Has the people from the Qilin Prince's mansion come?" After those words were spoken, instantly, the crowd went into chaos. What was the Qilin Prince's mansion? It was the true overlord of the Azure Province, and even the Lingyun School did not dare to offend them because there was the huge monster behind the Qilin Prince's mansion. Asterisk rumble 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 asterisk. Soon after the horn was rang, the entire mountain peak started to violently tremble. Large rocks started to roll down the slopes, and at the foot of the mountain, a large group of people and horses were approaching. This old guy really did come. At that instant, even Chu Feng lightly frowned. He did not do anything to Gong Luyun, yet, because he knew that the strongest guy behind Gong Luyun had arrived. As for Gong Luyun at that moment, he was heavily wounded and bruised. He could not even speak. But when he heard the horn, a peaceful smile brimmed on the corner of his mouth. Indeed, rows of golden light started to encircle the rolling dust. As they blocked the dazzling golden light, people discovered that there were indeed people and horse. There were several tens of thousands of people. All of them wore golden-colored armor, and on the chest section of the armor, there was an aggressive qilin. The horses that they were riding on also wore golden-colored armor. They were very well ordered as well. They advanced in a huge formation, and they emitted a frightening atmosphere. That group of people and horses were indeed the true overlord of the Azure province, the Qilin Prince's mansion. They are from the Qilin Prince's mansion. Isn't the person who is leading the head manager from the Lin clan in the Qilin Prince's mansion, Lord Lin Ran? It is indeed him. I never would have thought that even someone like him would arrive to this arranged battle. Of course, he needs to come. Don't you know how much Lin Ran dotes on Gong Luyun? A good show is coming up. I wonder what expression Lin Ran will have as he sees his precious foster grandson being abused to this state. The golden armor on Lin Ran's body, as well as the horse under him, was not different when compared to the other people from the Qilin Prince's mansion. However, as he stood there, the atmosphere of his entire person was completely different. It wasn't from his cultivation. It was the atmosphere that his own body emitted out. Even if a person like him did not cultivate within commoners, he could still become a leader. He had inborn, unordinary leading abilities and an unordinary atmosphere. At that instant, Lin Ran already saw Gong Luyun, who was on the fighting stage. His snow-white sword-like eyebrows slightly rose, and a roll of flame already appeared in his heart. It was not his foster grandson. It was his own son. How could Lin Ran not be furious when he saw as his own son got beaten up so wretchedly? However, he endured. He did not immediately speak, because he still saw a group of unknown world spiritists in a certain area in the guest viewing seats. Naturally, he, Lin Ran, recognized the people from the World Spirit Guild. In front of that group, he did not dare to act wildly because if he offended the World Spirit Guild, the entire Qilin Prince's mansion would be affected as well. My friend on the fighting stage, are you Chu Feng? After organizing his emotions, Lin Ran spoke. I am, Chu Feng replied. Friend, you are quite good to be able to force my grandson to his state. Lin Ran smiled, then asked Lin Zhangqing, Brother, are you the head of the Azure Dragon School, Li Zhangqing? I am. After the army of the Qilin Prince's mansion appeared, Li Zhangqing stopped fighting with the people from the Black Tortoise City. School head Lai, truly, Zhenren don't show their appearances, and I never would have thought that you would be an expert of the 7th level of the profound realm. With your cultivation, you can send an application so that the Azure Dragon School becomes a first-rate school. Tomorrow, you can send people to the Qilin Prince's mansion to apply. I will be responsible approving it, and I can add your Azure Dragon School into the list for first-rate schools. Lin Ran smiled, but his tone had a few implications of threat. He was hiddenly indicating Li Zhangqing. No matter how much stronger he got, he would still be far away from his Qilin Prince's mansion. Whether the Azure Dragon School could become a first-rate school or not would depend whether Lin Ran approved it or not. The Azure Dragon School isn't concrete enough, so I don't want to have the title of being a first-rate school. Therefore, no need to worry, my lord. Li Zhangqing wasn't a person who was afraid of matters as he indifferently smiled, but in reality, he was telling Lin Ran that he had no interest in the title of first-rate schools, so he should not even think of using that to threaten him. Haha, school head Lai. You are indeed an ambitious person. It seems like Lin Ran, has been nosy. Lin Ran laughed, then he looked towards Chu Feng and said, My friend Chu Feng, hatred will only stack up more and more. You don't really have any deep hatred with Lion, and on that year you only arranged this battle because of some little thing. There is no need to really fight until one lives and one dies. Quite a lesson has already been given by you, and it's enough. How about you sell me some face and spare him? Ho! After hearing Lin Ran's words, Chu Feng first mockingly chuckled, then fiercely glared at him and said, "Is the hatred of family extermination a little thing?" What? Family extermination? After Chu Feng spoke, it was like a huge rock thrown into a lake, and the crowd went into an uproar. Hatred of family extermination. What actually happened? There's a deep hatred of family extermination between Chu Feng and Gong Luyun. I know. I heard that roughly half a year ago. An absolutely tragic massacre happened in the Golden Purple City. In a single night, everyone in the Golden Purple City was completely annihilated. As for Chu Feng's family, incidentally, they were also the people who died the most miserably in the Golden Purple City. Almost every single Chu family member were beheaded, and their heads were hung to deter the public. Accordingly, there were even words of blood written in the Golden Purple City, and it stated that the people who died in the Golden Purple City all died because of Chu Feng. I've also heard of the incident from the Golden Purple City, but I didn't know that the Chu family was in it. Were the words of blood real? If they were real, then the Golden Purple City massacre was really caused by the Chu family. How did Chu Feng anger such a huge enemy at such an age? Is it possible that the Golden Purple City's massacre really were Gong Luyun's actions? A few words, family extermination hatred, caused emotions to abruptly rise. Some people who were quite well informed immediately associated the Golden Purple City's bloody case with Gong Luyun. However, even though the connection did not seem significant, after joining the two together, they were quite frightened. They couldn't help but cast strange gazes towards Gong Luyun. The massacre in the Golden Purple City was truly too cruel. Every single person in the city, the old, young, female, children, none of them lived. That heartless killing method made one's hair stand up. If it was truly caused by Gong Luyun, then he was a bit too ruthless. My friend Chu Feng, you can eat whatever you want to eat, but you cannot say whatever you want to say. The incident in the Golden Purple City has already been clearly investigated. It was done by the Five Tiger Village, and the Five Tiger Village has already gotten the punishment that it should have gotten. The truth has already been known and clear. You cannot accuse someone else unfairly. When he heard that Chu Feng gave his son some crimes, Lin Ran's tone started to turn cold. I'm sure everyone here knows what kind of place the Five Tiger Village is. If they were not hired by anyone, why would they attack my Chu family for no cause or reason? And I can tell everyone that the person who hired the Five Tiger Village was Gong Luyun. Chu Feng ignored Lin Ran and he loudly yelled at the crowd. Rubbish! Do you have evidence for your words? Lin Ran was all muddled up by anger, and at the same time, Gong Tianping and the others started to angrily howl at Chu Feng. Evidence? I don't need evidence. Right now, Gong Luyun's life is in my hands. I can take it whenever I want to take it. Why do I need evidence? Chu Feng kept on sneering, and as he spoke, he couldn't help but clench the big blade in his hand. You dare! If you dare to even touch him, I'll stamp over your Azure Dragon School. Lin Ran was completely angered. After he spoke, the army from the Qilin Prince's mansion behind him all prepared for battle. A single furious roar shook the sky and the earth. They emanated unstoppable might. They were the true masters of kings. I don't dare. I'll let you see whether I dare or not right now. Chu Feng only laughed. Then the golden blade in his hand became into a half-moon golden blur, and it chopped towards Gong Luyun's neck. No, seeing that, Lin Ran and Gong Tianping were shocked. Even Gong Luyun's face, who was brimming with smiles from the corner of his mouth, changed greatly. His eyes were widened so big that they were round, and his gaze was filled with fear. At that instant, he truly felt the taste of death. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, a golden blur swept past, and with a poof, blood sprayed over a large area and Gong Luyun's head, under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, flew off as it was chopped by Chu Feng. Asterisk bang asterisk, after slicing, Chu Feng reached and grabbed. He took Gong Luyun's brain from midair and threw it towards Lin Ran, who was still outside of the arena, and howled, "Have it back!" Heavens, this! Chu Feng really killed Gong Luyun, and he even killed him in front of Lin Ran. His nerves are a bit too big, aren't they? Does he truly not fear the heavens or the earth? Chu Feng's actions caused everyone in the arena to tremble. After Chu Feng's blade sliced down, not only did Gong Luyun feel the pain, almost everyone's hearts were moved along with it. They were frightened by Chu Feng's actions. If it was said that Chu Feng killing Gong Luyun was completely reasonable, that would be because it was a life and death battle, and the victor had the right to kill the loser. However, when Lin Ran already spoke and said that if Chu Feng dared to touch Gong Luyun again, he would stamp the Azure Dragon School flat, everything turned by 180 degrees. What status did Lin Ran have? What position? What strength? In front of the old man, the rules of the Azure Dragon School weren't even rules. Yet Chu Feng still dug his face away like that. At that moment, it wasn't already as simple as Chu Feng killing Gong Luyun. He went against Lin Ran's wishes and slapped his face in front of 1,000,000 people. That matter had been made into a huge thing. Lin Ran held Gong Luyun's head, and as he looked at his eyes, which were not shut, it was as though he was looking as his own son. His body was violently quivering. An indescribable fury was surging in his body. Suddenly, Lin Ran angrily roared towards the sky, and it caused the earth to tremble. After that, he pointed towards the people in the arena, pointed towards Chu Feng, pointed towards everyone, and coldly yelled, "I want every single person here dead and no one alive." "Yes, sir." At the same time that he finished speaking, the people from the Qilin Prince's mansion behind him gave a thunder-like response. Under Lin Ran's lead and with killing intent that rose to the heavens, they charged into the arena. "Really? What is happening? Killing everyone here. Does that mean we need to be killed as well?" At that instant, everyone in the arena panicked. Not only the people from the Azure Dragon School. Even the expressions of the people from the other schools changed greatly. They could tell how furious the current Lin Ran was. With his blood-red eyes, clearly, he had already lost all reason. The Qilin army behind him also followed his command, so it seemed that they were truly going to start a massacre. The Qilin army was too strong. Putting aside Lin Ran's cultivation of the 8th level of the profound realm, which could already kill every single person on scene, the people within the Qilin army, which had several tens of thousands of people, were not mediocre. The weakest were at the 5th level of the origin realm, but many people already entered the profound realm. With that formation, it could certainly demolish the Azure Dragon School and kill every single person on scene. "We're finished. We're dead." Chu Feng completely angered Lin Ran, and we have been dragged down by him as well. At that instant, many people's faces were like ashes as they powerlessly sat on the ground limply. As they faced the Qilin army, who had golden armor while riding golden horses, the only thing they could do was to wait for death. Many people even lost consciousness from the might of the Qilin army. They felt that they were near death. They felt that they would undoubtedly die. As the ruler of the Azure province, you view human life as though it was grass. The Qilin Prince's mansion is truly trash. Just at that time, an aged voice suddenly rang out. Following that, from a certain place in the guest viewing seats, 20 blurs abruptly rushed out, and at the end, they solidly landed near the entrance to the arena, and they stopped in front of the Qilin Prince's mansion's huge army of several tens of thousands. They are the 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists from the World Spirit Guild. What are they doing? Do they not want their lives? Cries of surprise kept on ringing out from the arena, and some sharp-eyed people already recognized the origin of the 20 figures. The 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists stood across like a one Chinese letter, in front of the army of tens of thousands. They clearly seemed to be so weak that even the wind could blow them away. Yet they did not move an inch from there. They allowed their gray-colored world spirit cloak to flutter left and right, and they did not plan to back away in the slightest. That terrified everyone, and they were thinking what the group of world spiritists were planning to do. Were they looking to die? Although people knew that world spiritists were strong and Greycloak, world spiritists were even stronger, however. In front of them was an army of tens of thousands. It was even the army from the Qilin Prince's mansion. The army from the Qilin Prince's mansion was famous for extremely strong battle power, and they people in the army were absolutely not comparable by disciples and elders from various other schools. They were the true masters of kings. Besides, the commander of the Qilin army was Lin Ran, the old man who was in the 8th level of the Profound Realm, one of the famous big characters in the entire Azure province, and his battle power was so strong that was terrifying. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk suddenly. Both of the hands of the 20 world spiritists quickly changed unpredictably. Layers of gray-colored gas started to circle around their bodies, and it formed a surging shield. Also, the gas got more and more dense, and at the end, it almost completely surrounded them. 100 Dragon Heaven Ceiling Formation. Finally, the 20 Greycloak world spiritists attacked at the same time. The gray-colored gas that encircled them became gray-colored huge dragons. The gray-colored huge dragons roared in the air. If one counted them, there would be 100 of them. Every single one was several hundred meters long, and they were truly, undoubted, huge dragons. The 100 huge dragon rushed towards the army from the Qilin Prince's mansion at the same time. They widened their fierce mouths, as if within their eyes, the Qilin army wasn't a terrifying army but a delicious dinner. No matter how much more training the Qilin army got, they were still scared by the 100 huge dragons. Immediately, they stopped going forward, and fear was revealed on their faces, because they could feel the threat from the huge dragons. Empty might. At that time, Lin Ran stood out. He stood on the golden horse and he threw several palms towards the air. Every single palm contained golden-colored light, and like shooting meteorites, they flew towards the 100 huge dragons in the air. Asterisk boom 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 asterisk as they howled through the air. The golden-colored light palms shattered the 100 huge dragons and completely destroyed them. The originally huge dragon body became gray-colored gas that went everywhere. The gas floated in the air, and it did not go away. Oh tilde tilde tilde, at that instant, the Qilin army couldn't help but cheer as they celebrated their victory. This Lin Ran is too strong. With the cultivation of the 8th level of the Profound Realm and the comprehension and use of martial skills, he is close to breaking logic, and no matter how much stronger the world spiritist methods get, they would have no way of blocking him off. This is the strength of cultivators. As long as one had absolute battle power, no matter what corrupt methods someone else used, they would still have no ways of resisting. When the 20 Greycloak world spiritists attacked, and especially after the appearance of the 100 huge dragons, many people were as if they saw hope. But when that hope was shattered, what they faced was even deeper disappointment. However, they did not discover that after the 100 gray-colored huge dragons were shattered, not only did the 20 Greycloak world spiritists not have a single trace of worry, rather, within their aged eyes, faint joy appeared. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk suddenly, all of them extended their arms, intersected them, and did a strange hand seal. After that, all of them yelled at the same time. Seal. Asterisk who asterisk after they spoke, the sky and the earth trembled, and the gray-colored gases that were originally floating in the air were as though they heard a summon, and they became hurricanes as they charged towards the Qilin army once again. HMPH. No matter how many times you come, I will be able to shatter you. Seeing that, Lin Ran was not afraid as well. He threw out several golden palms again towards the air, but this time, the golden palms were unable to break the gray-colored gas. Instead, they went straight through them. Quickly after that, the boundless gray-colored gas entered the Qilin army. Like a rainy cloud, they tightly enveloped them and they quickly started to surge. Strong force blew them to the point that both human and horses were rolling. And in an instant, the Master of Kings were already completely defeated. What a strong method! It is truly too terrifying. They are only 20 people, yet they could so easily cause the army of several tens of thousands to collapse. Is this the methods of Grey Cloak World Spiritists? As they looked at the gray-colored gas that were like black clouds engulfing the Qilin army of several tens of thousands, everyone was dumbfounded. Their gazes were filled with astonishment. That gray-colored gas was too strange. No matter what attack was thrown out, it would be unable to damage the gas, and it would only go straight through and at the end harm their own people from the Qilin prince's mansion. However, they were also real substances, and they could affect the Qilin army. They blew them to the point in which they were rolling and climbing on the ground, and the army lost all battle power. The people from the Qilin prince's mansion could not even walk out of the gray-colored gas, and they were completely sealed within it. Perhaps it sounded quite bad, but they could really only wait to die. Quickly dissolve this dirty and corrupt formation, or else I will not care whether you come from the World Spirit Guild or not. I will certainly not allow you to return. Suddenly, a figure leaped out from the gray-colored gas. It was Lin Ran. At that instant, Lin Ran's hair was in complete chaos, and he was like a mad demon. Even his clothes were incomplete. Clearly, he suffered quite a bit of damage when he was in the gray-colored gas. However, his current aura was abnormally strong as well. Without restraint, he emanated the pressure of the 8th level of the Profound Realm, and attacked the 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists. Asterisk rumble 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 asterisk. His strike was condensed by profound power. Although it was only simple profound power, it was abnormally strong. The profound power first rushed into the sky, then descended back down. It enveloped the 20 World Spiritists and at the same time locked their escape. He wanted to defeat all of them with one strike. Heavens, how much power do you need for such limitless profound power? Is this Lin Ran's true strength? Although it isn't a martial skill, it has surpassed martial skills. This is truly too terrifying. As they looked at the limitless profound power, everyone couldn't help but inhale a break of cool air, and they were deeply stunned by the terrifying might. At the same time, they also deeply wiped away some sweat for the World Spiritists. Although they had no relation at all with the World Spiritists, at that moment, Lin Ran wanted to take everyone's lives, so the World Spiritists were their only hope. Naturally, they did not want anything happening to the World Spiritists. You are only the 8th level of the Profound Realm, yet you dare speak such wild words and want to take our lives. Truly shameless big words. However, as the profound power was going to land, at the same time, boundless profound power exploded from the bodies of the 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists. Their profound power rushed straight up into the air and interweaved with Lin Ran's attack. Instantly, it dissipated Lin Ran's profound power. At that instant, almost everyone could feel the aura of the 20 World Spiritists. All of them couldn't help but widen their mouths, and even their bodies were excitedly trembling as they yelled out in surprise. They are all experts in the 8th level of the Profound Realm. The 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists were martial cultivation experts in the 8th level of the Profound Realm. As they emanated their auras, instantly, they suppressed Lin Ran's because every single one of their auras were no weaker than Lin Ran's, let alone the 20 of them together. So these are the people from the World Spirit Guild. Strong. If people in the 8th level of the Profound Realm are already peak-level big characters in the Azure Province, these 20 experts in the 8th level of the Profound Realm are quite a bit scary. It's said that in the Spirit Province, experts are like the clouds, and it seems like that is indeed true. I don't believe that these 20 people are the peak-level people in the World Spirit Guild, but when they are in the Azure Province, they are indeed peak level. It could be seen how big of a difference there is between the Azure Province's cultivators and the cultivators from other provinces. The cultivation of the 20 World Spiritists frightened everyone. Even Lin Ran tightly frowned and his face became strangely ugly. Leave. Seeing that all of you came from the Qilin Prince's mansion today, we will spare you. But remember, don't think about harming Chu Feng. He is a part of my World Spirit Guild, and if you dare to touch him, my World Spirit Guild will not ignore it." One of the Grey Cloak World Spiritists waved his hand at Lin Ran, indicating them to quickly leave. He, ha 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 ha. However, at that moment Lin Ran suddenly loudly laughed. His laughter was extremely strange. Although from his voice he was indeed laughing, his expression was abnormally sinister and terrifying. Suddenly, he stopped laughing. He cast his abnormally evil gaze towards the 20 world spiritists from the World Spirit Guild and fiercely said, "Today, I must kill Chu Feng. No matter who it is, those who block me will die." After speaking, the cosmos sack on his waist lit up and a purplish-black pill appeared in his hand. Then he swallowed it. After the pill entered his body, change instantly happened to Lin Ran. Both of his eyes turned black, and his mouth also turned black. Black-colored gas kept on flowing out from his body. At that instant, his aura was rising. With a blink, he arrived in the 9th level of the profound realm, and he was still climbing. Crap, he used a forbidden medicine. Seeing that, the people from the World Spirit Guild also instantly became tense. That's a forbidden medicine. Quite scary. I heard that forbidden medicine allowed a cultivator's cultivation to rise, but after the power disappears, they will get the rebounds. I heard that according to the medical powers, the colors of the forbidden medicines are different as well. The black color is one of the strongest ones. Look, Lin Ran's aura already reached the peak of the 9th level of the profound realm, but it is still increasing. If this goes on, he wouldn't make a breakthrough into the heaven realm, right? How is it possible? No matter how much more powerful forbidden medicines are, it would be impossible for him to go from the 8th level of the profound realm to the heaven realm. If there is truly a forbidden medicine like that after the powers disappear, the user would certainly die from the rebound. It stopped. However, he has already infinitely neared the heaven realm. He is no longer in the simple profound realm. He is truly at the peak of the profound realm that endlessly nears the heaven realm. Has Lin Ran gone insane? So in order to kill Chu Feng, he took such a powerful forbidden medicine. Although the forbidden medicine wouldn't be enough to take his life, but he would still receive extremely powerful rebound, right? As they looked at Lin Ran, who had black gas lingering around him, everyone was endlessly terrified. They knew how scary the current Lin Ran was. Even the 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritist in the 8th level of the profound realm could not stop him. Today, I must take Chu Feng's head. If there is anyone who dares to stop me, I will start an annihilation. Lin Ran angrily yelled as he walked towards Chu Feng step by step. The ground would tremble after every step. A deep footprint would be left behind as countless cracks spread out from them. If you want to kill Chu Feng, you must pass through us first. However, just at that time, the 20 world spiritists from the World Spirit Guild rushed forward again and arrived in front of Lin Ran. Simultaneously, they spread their arms open, and layers of strong gray-colored spirit formation power surged out and became incomparably thick, huge spirit formation walls, and they surrounded Lin Ran within them. HMPH, you still dare to use such crooked methods against me? All of you truly are looking to die. Lin Ran coldly snorted, then waved his big sleeve. The black-colored gas swirled like a hurricane, and it completely shattered the huge spirit formations, and instantly all of them crumbled. After the spirit formation wall was destroyed, the black-colored gas pounced towards the 20 world spiritists. At that instant, the world spiritists also used everything they had to lay spirit formations in order to hold the gas back. 1 layer, 2 layers, 10 layers, 100 layers. As they proficiently controlled the spirit formations, hundreds of spirit formation walls kept on condensing in front of them, and the numbers were still rising. However, in front of the black-colored gas, they were useless. The spirit formations that were originally incomparably firm, the spirit formations that were titled as the strongest defense methods, were like tofu, as they could not even take a single strike. They already crumbled because of the black-colored gas. The 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists flew several hundred meters back, before falling back down after they were struck by the black-colored gas. After landing, their auras became extremely feeble, and even the gray-colored gas that enveloped the Qilin army quickly dissipated. It could be seen that they were quite heavily injured. Elders, as they saw that, the several hundred White Cloak World Spiritists on the guest view stage quickly rushed down, and they wanted to support the 20 Grey Cloak World Spiritists. Move! However, Lin Ran saved his big sleeve, and the several hundred White Cloak World Spiritists were like scarecrows as they flew up high. Then they quickly fell back down and ferociously landed on the floor. At that instant, the World Spiritists that came from the World Spirit Guild were laying on the ground as they painfully howled. They did not even have any strength to stand back up. Chu Feng, run! Just at that time, another figure rushed out. It was Chu Feng's master, Zhuge Liaoyun Dai. Lin Ran's gaze turned cold as he raised his palm. Strong, profound power flew towards Zhuge Liaoyun. The huge power was enough to destroy Zhuge Liaoyun into pieces. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, but when that profound power was going to hit Zhuge Liaoyun, Li Jiangxing stood in front of him, and he used his entire body's profound power to lay a defense in order to block Lin Ran's attack. However, it was useless. With a huge boom, violent energy ripples engulfed them. The two of them flew back, and when they fell back on the floor, blood filled their mouths and they were seriously internally wounded. At that instant, no one was able to defeat Lin Ran. He who used forbidden medicine was near invincible, and not a single person could take any one of his strikes. His cultivation already reached the 9th level of the profound realm, and he was infinitely near the heaven realm. The most important part, though, was his horrifying bloodlust. He was unable to dispel it if he did not quickly kill. The current Lin Ran had black gas lingering around him, and his bloodlust rose straight to the sky. As for the aura that he was emitting other than strong, there was another word that summarized it: coldness. Everyone was afraid because at that moment, Lin Ran was truly too terrifying. A whole 20 Greycloak World Spiritists in the 8th level of the Profound Realm could not even block one of his attacks. People truly suspected whether he already entered the Heaven Realm or not. In addition, the Qilin army of tens of thousands that were suppressed freed themselves. At that moment, they aggressively entered the arena, and everyone felt despair. Lin Ran, the person who killed Gong Luyun, was me. If you have any hatred, aim them at myself. As he saw the people next to him rolling around on the ground, and as he looked at the gazes of fear from the strangers around him, Chu Feng unhesitatingly jumped off the fighting stage and walked towards Lin Ran. Chu Feng, as they looked at that scene, everyone was shocked. Even though Lin Ran's fury was indeed caused by Chu Feng, at that instant, for the safety of the crowd, Chu Feng was willing to sacrifice himself. That still deeply shocked everyone's hearts. In this world, most people were selfish, and there were too little people who were willing to be selfless. Even they could not do it. But for some strangers, Chu Feng, such a young man, could sacrifice himself. Other than fear in their hearts, emotions of gratitude rose from deep within their hearts. Don't worry, even if you don't come, I will still skin you alive before taking your little life away. Soldiers and generals of the Qilin Prince's mansion, listen to my command. Today, I want the Azure Dragon School to be rinsed with blood. Other than people from my prince's mansion, kill every single other person without mercy. However, Lin Ran, who was filled with killing intent, did not even plan to forgive any person in the arena. Immediately after he spoke, the Qilin army of tens of thousands behind him spread everywhere, and they charged towards the observing crowd. Run. Instantly, all sorts of panicked cries kept on ringing out, and everyone did their best to escape. However, there was only one entrance to the arena, and at that moment, it was already sealed shut by the Qilin army. They were like turtles in a jar, and they had no roads to escape. We're dead. We're dead. Originally, there was a good show here to watch, but I never would have thought that we would become sacrifices in order to dissolve Lin Ran's hatred. Compared to the people who panicked, those who were thoughtful were even more gloomy. 10,000 of their hopes turned into dust, and after closely analyzing the situation in front of their eyes, they got a conclusion. They were undoubtedly dead. The current Chu Feng did not care about the people who randomly ran and randomly yelled. He first looked at Zhuge Liaoyun and Li Jiangxing, then looked at the World Spirit Guild crowd, then looked at a certain area in the guest viewing seats. After seeing two familiar, beautiful figures, his heart couldn't help but violently jump 2 times. Because those two were 2 women whom he loved. They were the sisters, Su Ro and Su Mei. Although the sisters were strictly guarded by the people from the Vermilion Bird City, Chu Feng knew that in front of the insane Qilin army, both of them were still in danger. After experiencing the family extermination calamity, after feeling the pain of losing his family, Chu Feng hiddenly made a vow, and he could not let anyone close to him be harmed because of himself. At that moment, there was only one method to protect them. It was to sacrifice himself. Suddenly, he raised one of his fists, and a golden-colored dagger appeared in his hand. As he walked towards Lin Ran, he loudly yelled, "Lin Ran, there is absolutely no reason for you to do this. If you have anger, you can charge towards myself and throw all of it onto myself. How do you want me to torment myself? Speak. As long as you can say it, I, Chu Feng, can do it. There is no need for you to do it yourself. I, Chu Feng, will torture myself." After Chu Feng spoke, even Lin Ran couldn't help but be taken aback. He lightly frowned, but tightly stared at Chu Feng. After a while, an abnormally cold, evil, and strange smile rose on the corners of his mouth. He raised his hand and said, "Everyone, stop." After speaking, the Qilin army who just charged into the observing seats quickly stopped. They did not start to kill the innocent people, and they only obediently waited for Lin Ran's orders. "Chu Feng, you are quite courageous, but I don't really know whether you can do what you say." Lin Ran squinted his eyes and looked at Chu Feng with an eerie gaze. "As long as you can say it, I can do it." Chu Feng grasped the golden-colored dagger, and there wasn't a trace of fear on his face. "Good, straightforward. In order to express your sincerity first, let me see you castrating yourself." Lin Ran yelled. "Chu Feng, don't. Are you an idiot?" Although he used forbidden medicine, that does not mean that we have no chances of winning. Lend your body to me and let me take care of him. Even if I cannot defeat him, I can still help you safely escape. You don't need to give up right now." At that instant, Eggy, who was in Chu Feng's body, howled with everything she had. "Chu Feng, you must not. Don't do anything to yourself. This Lin Ran is an old fox, and he will not let us go even if you torment yourself." At the same time, Su Ro and Su Mei, who were on the guest stage, yelled out at the same time, but immediately after they yelled out, their mouths were covered by people on Su Hen's orders. He did not want to anger Lin Ran anymore under those circumstances. "Chu Feng, do not do stupid things. You still have a great future." Li Jiangxing yelled. "Chu Feng, what are you thinking about? Quickly escape right now. This is an order from your master. Are you not even going to listen to the words of your master?" Zhuge Liaoyun angrily howled. "Lin Ran, if anything happens to Chu Feng today, my World Spirit Guild will stamp your Qilin Prince's mansion flat." Even the elders from the World Spirit Guild threatened. "Don't even think of scaring me. You think that I, Lin Ran, grew up from fear. No matter how much more powerful your World Spirit Guild is, it is only a power from a single area. Can you be even stronger than the Jiang dynasty? The Jiang dynasty is supporting my Qilin Prince's mansion. Do you want to try and dare to even touch my prince's mansion?" However, the current Lin Ran was near insanity. He was not afraid of the threats from the World Spirit Guild, and he only pointed at the guest stage in which Su Ro and Su Mei were on and said to Chu Feng, "Chu Feng, you better quickly castrate yourself, or else I will pull those 2 girls here and let my Qilin army of tens of thousands take turns you." At that instant, Chu Feng gnashed his teeth in anger. He never would have thought that even under the current circumstances, Lin Ran still closely observed, and he discovered that Su Ro and Su Mei worried about Chu Feng. From that, he discovered that their relationship was not ordinary. However, under those situations, Chu Feng did not have a choice as well. He could only slowly raise the golden-colored dagger in his hand and prepared to stab down. Chu Feng, you bastard! In order to save those two, are you going to not care about my life? If you die, I can't live as well. Seeing that Chu Feng really wanted to do some idiotic thing, Eggy insanely howled. Eggy, no need to lie to me. I've already inquired about it. After the world spiritist dies, the contract will indeed get dissolved. But the world spirit won't disappear. They'll just return to the spiritual world. Chu Feng smiled, but then his tone was filled with guilt. Nonsense. They only know fart. I was sealed in your body. If I could have returned to the spiritual world, I would have already left. Why would I always be locked in your spiritual world? Eggy angrily rebuked. No tilde tilde tilde. At that instant, everyone who worried about Chu Feng widened their mouths and yelled out, as if their hearts were torn and their lungs were split. Even those who were not related to Chu Feng couldn't help but close their eyes, and they couldn't bear continue looking. Chu Feng's actions could be said to be a sacrifice for everyone there. Asterisk bang asterisk, however, just as the golden blur was going to land, an aged hand suddenly appeared and tightly grabbed Chu Feng's wrist. It stopped Chu Feng's movements, and at the same time an old laughing voice also rang out. Ho! You are quite heartless to even yourself. You don't even want your jewels. You don't want to do it with woman, and you don't want to carry any sons. After hearing that voice, Chu Feng's expression couldn't help but greatly change. After he clearly saw the old man, he even instantly rejoiced. The old man wore golden-colored armor, and he had a kind smile on his face. Everything seemed quite familiar, because he was the mysterious senior Chu Feng saw that day in the Valley of 100 Bends. Who is this? At the same time, everyone in the arena were shocked. The old man appeared way too fast, and no one could even tell when he came. He appeared just like a ghost. The reason why they were shocked was not only because of the unfathomable high cultivation. It was also because he wore armor that belonged to the Qilin prince's mansion, yet he saved Chu Feng. Qi Feng Yang. Finally, someone yelled in surprise, and that person recognized that old man. The person who yelled out was none other than the person who wanted to kill Chu Feng, Lin Ran. What? Qi Feng Yang. He's the chief of the Qi clan in the Qilin prince's mansion. After hearing the name Qi Feng Yang, almost everyone on scene couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air. Who was Qi Feng Yang? He was one of the true peak characters of the Azure province. In the Qilin prince's mansion, there were two clans, the Qi clan and the Lin clan. The one who ruled the two clans was the lord of the Qilin prince's mansion. So, in the Qilin prince's mansion, the lord of the mansion had the highest position. Other than the mansion lord, the ones with the highest strength and position in the Qilin prince's mansion was the chief of the Qi clan and the chief of the Lin clan. Lin Ran was only a head manager in the Lin clan, and he was one step lower than being chief. However, Qi Feng Yang was the chief of the Qi clan, so his position was one step higher than Lin Ran. The most important thing was that Qi Feng Yang already entered the 9th level of the Profound Realm many years ago. He was truly in the peak of the Profound Realm. No matter if it was status, position, or strength in terms of cultivation, he was a character who was stronger than Lin Ran. Why did such a character appear at that place? If it was said that Lin Ran's appearance was to help his foster grandson, Gong Luyun, then why did Qi Feng Yang appear in that place for? Why did he save Chu Feng? Did he come to help Chu Feng? At that instant, various guesses kept on echoing in people's brains, but not one of them could think of the answer. On the other hand, Qi Feng Yang indifferently smiled, then swept his gaze over to Lin Ran and calmly said, Lin Ran, you've got quite big nerves. You dare to ignore the mansion rules and kill the innocent. Qi Feng Yang, this Chu Feng killed my foster grandson. Why is it not right for me to take his life? Clearly, Lin Ran was slightly afraid of Qi Feng Yang, and as he spoke, he wasn't as forceful as before. Oh, a foster grandson is only a foster grandson. Is it worth it for you to have such big movements? If a mere foster grandson caused you to start a massacre, then I will need to take care of today's matter even more, because Chu Feng is my close friend." Chu Feng pulled Chu Feng closer, and as he stuck his chest out and raised his head as he patted Chu Feng's shoulder. "What? I didn't hear wrong, did I? Senior Chu Feng is Chu Feng's close friend." After Chu Feng spoke, another ruckus was brought up by the crowd. Even Li Jiangxing, Zhuge Liaoyun and the others were so shocked that their jaws fell to the ground. A young person like Chu Feng was a close friend with Chu Feng, who was such a huge character. That news was truly too explosive. However, there was no one who had an even more wonderful expression than Su Hen. Chu Feng was a huge character that even he did not get a chance to interact with. He was an old senior who he wished to have connections to, but could not. However, that old senior was Chu Feng's close friend. Yet before, he even told his daughters to stay away from Chu Feng. Right now, he could really fiercely slap himself 2 times because god damn, he did not have eyes. Chu Feng, today I must kill Chu Feng. Don't think that I wouldn't dare to attack you just because you're the chief of the Qi clan. Seeing that Chu Feng was determined to protect Chu Feng, Lin Ran did not speak any more rubbish. Again, he emanated his boundless aura, and the black gas rose into the air once again. Oh, you think you're so good now. After taking that pill, you feel like you can do it. Come, you can come and try. I would quite like to see how capable you are after taking the forbidden medicine. Chu Feng was not a person who was fun to anger. After pulling his sleeve and revealing his arm, he quickly ran towards Lin Ran. "Chu Feng, you forced me." Suddenly, Lin Ran angrily roared as he became black light and leaped. Instantly, he arrived in front of Chu Feng, and the fist that was covered by black gas and had devastating power kept on increasing in size in front of Chu Feng's eyes. "Damn you, get down." However, Chu Feng did not dodge or avoid it. Rather, he stuck one hand out and formed it into a claw. He grabbed the fist that Lin Ran threw towards him, and with a wave of his arm, he spun Lin Ran, who was in the air. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk. Lin Ran was like a circular sandbag, and after being spun 10 whole circles in the air by Chu Feng, he was pulled down from the air, and with a bang, he fell onto the ground. Strong power caused rocks to fly in all directions, and a huge hole was formed by that. But that was not the end. Chu Feng raised his right leg, and he kicked Lin Ran, who was in the hole, at random places. As he kicked, he even cursed, "God damn, you dare to be so cocky with me after you ate some broken pill. You want to be so full of yourself. I let you be so full of yourself." Asterisk bang 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 asterisk. Chu Feng, after he pulling his sleeve back and revealing his arm, fiercely kicked Lin Ran as he also added some cursing. As people saw that scene, their souls were shocked. They grimaced, they were dumbfounded, they wanted to stop looking, yet they could not. They thought in their hearts. They were both in the 9th level of the profound realm, but that difference was a bit too great, wasn't it? In reality, it was indeed so. Even Chu Feng widened his mouth in shock, because he could tell that it wasn't only the distance in terms of cultivation realms. It was purely the distance in terms of battle power. Similarly, as he could use the cultivation of the 7th level of the origin realm to defeat Gong Lu Yun, who was in the 4th level of the profound realm. Although Chu Feng at that moment didn't have such twisted battle power as Chu Feng, he was still clearly not on the same level as Lin Ran. He was far above him. Beating Lin Ran was like beating a child. Lin Ran did not have any room to fight back, nor did he have a chance to fight back, because Chu Feng's battle power was completely above his, and he absolutely crushed him. What should we do about this? Chu Feng is as abnormal as usual, and even Lord Lin Ran, who ate forbidden medicine, cannot defeat him. What else can we do? Quickly retreat. This old guy has disappeared for a long time. And during this period of time, the Qi clan has been quite miserably suppressed by my Lin clan. Right now, since he suddenly appeared, he will certainly not forgive us. Seeing that their own family's Lord Lin Ran was being so violently beaten up like that, the Qilin army from the Lin clan tightly frowned, and they kept on shivering. They secretly turned around and they wanted to secretly leave. However, how was it possible for such a huge army with such huge numbers not attract attention when they wanted to leave? So when the first person turned around and retreated, Chu Feng immediately loudly yelled, "God damn, all of you stand right there. I will break 3 legs from the people who dare to leave this arena." They were too afraid of Chu Feng. The Qi clan and the Lin clan were not on friendly terms, and when Chu Feng was in the prince's mansion, he suppressed the Lin clan. At that time, Chu Feng was a name that caused the Lin clan to be fearful just by hearing it. Even the chief of the Lin clan had headaches because of him. Later on, Chu Feng suddenly disappeared. The Qi clan was like a group of dragons without a head, so the Lin clan started their counterattack. During that period of time, the Qi clan were indeed quite miserably suppressed by the Lin clan. However, the King of Hell returned, and they could completely imagine what situations their Lin clan was going to face. Damn, you really think you're so good now? In the period of time that I wasn't here, all of you were quite arrogant, huh? Not only did you bully my Qi clan in the mansion, you even bully my close friend's school outside of the mansion. God damn, who gave you these nerves? Kneel. Hua tilde, Chu Feng explosively yelled, and without even hesitating, the Lin clan's army kneeled simultaneously. Their former arrogance and unshakable dignity, after doing so much, it was only fart in front Chu Feng. They very decisively threw them away. Chu Feng took that scene as normal, but the outsiders in the arena were joyful beyond expectations, and they were endlessly shocked. Not only was the army from the Qilin prince's mansion kneeling to Chu Feng, the army was also kneeling to them. How much face would be given if one said that the people from the Qilin prince's mansion knelt before them? Even if they could not become some big character in the future, at least, they would be able to brag to their grandsons and later generations, right? What are you thinking? Slap yourself 100 times. Chu Feng stepped on Lin Ran's head, then he yelled at the Lin clan while pointing at them. Kai, Chief Chi, we only followed the commands of our superior. We were truly forced. This time, someone hesitated, and with a full face of grievance, that person yelled and complained to Chu Feng. At the same time, the tens of thousands people from the Qilin prince's mansion nodded with faces of grievances as well. They really hoped that Chu Feng could spare them once. Screw your damn being forced. However, Chu Feng did not buy that. He first loudly cursed, then took off a shoe that he was wearing and waved his arm. He threw that shoe towards the face of the one who begged. No matter how you said it, other people's shoes were still shoes. However, Chu Feng shoe was a ferocious weapon. After that shoe landed, the person who begged cried out in pain. His nose was crooked, and his face was smashed in. And not only did he get knocked out from that, his face even got paralyzed. After seeing the person who got his face smashed by a shoe, the Lin clan army of tens of thousands all hesitated for 0.001 seconds, then raised their palms, waved their arms, and sent huge slaps towards their own faces with bangs, putting aside how much power they used to slap themselves. But without even slapping themselves for 100 times, no one dared to stop. People were completely stupefied when they looked at that scene. Their mouths and eyes were crooked, and they were so shocked that they could not care for themselves. The Qilin army that was so aggressive with boiling killing intent earlier was taken care by someone to that state. They truly saw something new. Even shock was filled on Egge's sweet little face in Chu Feng's spiritual world. As she was stunned, her little mouth couldn't help but slightly open, and she couldn't help but yell in surprise. This old man is quite strange. I recall how righteous he seemed in the Valley of 100 Bends. I never would have thought that when facing the enemy, he would not care what methods he used, and he would be so despicable and shameless. Ah, luckily he isn't the enemy, because he is even more terrifying than Lin Ran. As for Chu Feng, a faint smile was hung on the corner of his mouth. He was very glad that he met such a noble person like Chu Feng. Not only did he save himself, he even saved the people close to him. At the same time, He was even more glad that Chu Feng wasn't his enemy, because he knew that if the old man was currently his enemy, right now, he would have certainly been played around to death by the old man. Finally, after 100 slaps, the several tens of thousands Lin clan members from the Qilin prince's mansion had swelled up, and red faces. Deep palm marks were left, and it could be seen that they were quite fierce to themselves. Of course, they did not dare to not be fierce. In front of Chu Feng, how could they dare to play any tricks? If they were discovered, Chu Feng could certainly play around with them until they were dead. Brother Chu Feng, this group of dogs came here to stir up trouble, and they ruined your originally fine life and death battle. Speak. How should they be punished? I'll help you out with it. Chu Feng arrived in front of Chu Feng and heroically patted Chu Feng's shoulder. Looking at how he acted, he really did not seem to be facing a junior. It was more like he was facing a brother. Chu Feng was always grateful towards Chu Feng. His life was saved by him in the Valley of 100 Bends, and Chu Feng already owed him a huge favor then. Before he could even pay that back, his life was saved once again by him. Also, not only did he save Chu Feng's life, he even saved the near 1 million people's lives in the arena. Chu Feng was already endlessly grateful, so he clasped his hands and said, "Senior Chi, I will not forget your benevolence and kindness, and I will undoubtedly pay it back in the future." Tusk, what are you talking about? However, it was unexpected that Chu Feng did not want Chu Feng's words. He curled his lips, widened his eyes, and said to Chu Feng, "Who are you calling senior? Call me brother." As he looked at Chu Feng, who was full of smiles, Chu Feng hesitated for a bit, but he still laughed, smiled, and said to Chu Feng, "Brother." "Ah, that's right." After hearing Chu Feng's response, Chu Feng smile was even more dazzling. He raised his head, looked around, then loudly said, "Everyone listen up. From today on, Chu Feng is my brother. Whoever dares to bully Chu Feng means that they are bullying me, Chu Feng. As long as I, Chu Feng, am still breathing, I will absolutely not forgive him." Also, the Azure Dragon School is already qualified to become a first-rate school, not for any other reason, but my brother being here is a reason enough. Besides, school head List Cultivation is already qualified to be the school head for a first-rate school. Therefore, school head Lai, I, Chu Feng, shall boldly ask, why not take this chance and start an assembly in the Azure Dragon School for a school promotion, and to raise the Azure Dragon School from a second-rate school to a first-rate school. Chu Feng smiled and said to Li Jiangqing, "Everything can be arranged by you, Lord Qi." Let alone that Li Jiangqing did not dare to go against Chu Feng's wishes. Actually, he himself also wanted to raise the Azure Dragon School to a first-rate school, since there was a chance like that right now, and it was even personally hosted by the number 2 person in the Grand Qilin Prince's mansion. Naturally, he would not miss that chance. Haha, good. Today this thing will be set. In order to celebrate the promotion of the school that my younger brother is in, my Qilin Prince's mansion will contribute. 2 days later, also in this place, the Azure Dragon School will host a school promotion assembly for a new start. Anyone who come are guests, so everyone, no need to leave. Stay for an extra 2 days, and why not join this Azure Dragon School's school promotion assembly as well? Chu Feng was extremely happy, and as for the people in the arena, naturally, they were endlessly excited as well. It was quite an honorable thing to participate in the school promotion assembly that Chu Feng hosted. Besides, the current Azure Dragon School did indeed have the strength for them to set up a relationship. Not to mention the Azure Dragon School's head, Li Jiangqing's strength, and not to mention Chu Feng's potential. Just by looking at Chu Feng, the supporter behind them, it was enough to make various schools seriously treat them. However, some people were quite depressed as well, and one of them would be Gong Tianping, who was bearing the pain of losing his son. His own son was killed, but he had no way of avenging him. That caused him to be depressed to the extreme, so he did not stay behind to participate in the Azure Dragon School's school promotion assembly. He only led the people from the Black Tortoise City and gloomily left. As for the elders and heads from first-rate schools which he brought along, they did not choose to leave. In front of Chu Fengyang's mighty name, they decisively threw Gong Tianping away and chose to rely on the Azure Dragon School. They decided to befriend the Azure Dragon School. That made Gong Tianping even more depressed. As he was in pain because his own son was lost, his allies abandoned him and threw themselves towards the enemy. That was truly adding frost onto snow, and the date of his revenge was so distant and far. But the most depressed people were the Lin clan from the Qilin prince's mansion. Under Chu Fengyang's command, the big characters who had well-known statuses became physical labor for the Azure Dragon School's promotion. They laid the space, arranged tables and chairs, swept the ground, organized, prepared goods and supplies. Everything were their responsibilities, and even though they felt wronged in their stomachs, they did not dare to speak even half a word of complaint because they truly feared Chu Fengyang too much. As they faced a situation like that, at first, many people did not get used to the people from the Qilin prince's mansion pouring tea for them. It made them feel extremely frightened, and they were deeply afraid that they would take revenge on them for that. But gradually, they still got used to it. It was because Chu Fengyang said one sentence: if anyone on scene had anything happen to them, no matter if it was done by the Lin clan or not, in the future, he would still collect debts from the Lin clan. So naturally, the people from the Lin clan would not dare to have any plans. However, Chu Fengyang wasn't a person who didn't know when to stop. Although most of the Lin clan members stayed behind for physical labor, he still let 20 Lin clan members who had decent cultivation leave. The reason why they were let go was naturally to send the heavily injured Lin Ran back to the Qilin prince's mansion. Although Chu Fengyang felt very displeased towards Lin Ran, after all, he was still in the Lin clan. A lesson could be given, but a life could not be taken. Cough, cough, cough. On the road back to the Qilin prince's mansion, 20 experts from the Qilin prince's mansion rode golden horses, and they were escorting a luxurious carriage while hurrying on the road. Heart-tearing and lung-splitting huge coughs occasionally came from the carriage, and occasionally, bursts of unceasingly miserable moans came from the carriage. This Chu Fengyang has gone too far by beating Lord Lin Ran like this. After returning to the prince's mansion, we must report this to the lord of the mansion and let him punish Chu Fengyang. A young guard aggrievedly said, "What do you even know? Even the chief can't do anything about Chu Fengyang. Do you really think that mansion lord will listen to you? Do you think that he knows nothing? Who do you think is more important to the prince mansion, Chu Fengyang or Lord Lin Ran? Besides, the current injuries that Lord Lin Ran has right now was not caused by Chu Fengyang. They are internal injuries resulted from the rebounds of that forbidden medicine." A middle-aged guard reminded, "It's the forbidden medicine. This type of rebound is really too painful, and I can truly not bear seeing Lord Lin Ran endure this type of torture." Worry and unwillingness filled the young guard's face. "There's someone in front." But just at that time, the guard who was at the very front suddenly loudly yelled. Quickly after, the 20 princes' mansion guards entered a high alert state. Indeed, a figure appeared on the road in front. That person was sitting in the middle of the road while wearing a conical hat. His appearance was unclear, but he blocked the road forward. "We are Lin clan members from the Qilin prince's mansion. The person in front quickly move." One of the guards howled. However, the person who preventing them from continuing still sat in the middle of the road. He did not have any reactions, as though he didn't hear the guard's words. "Oi, I'm speaking to you. Do you not hear me?" Seeing that there were no reactions, that guard howled again. But yet again, that person still ignored him. "God damn, you are truly looking to die." Seeing that, the guard who already had a stomach of anger jumped and leaped off the horse, then quickly walked towards that person. At that instant, a smile of ridicule appeared on the faces of the other guards, because they knew what the guard planned to do. If he truly wanted to kill the person on the road, he would have just directly attacked and sent a strike through the air. It would have been enough to break him into pieces, so there was no need to walk over. The reason why he walked over was because He wanted to torture the guy who did not have eyes for a while. Incidentally, all of them had a stomach full of anger, so they wanted to vent it out on the passerby who didn't have eyes. You stand up. The guard walked next to the person on the road, extended his hand, and he wanted to grab his clothes. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, however, a half-moon-shaped cold glare slid across his wrist. Blood sprayed, and the hand that the guard extended was already cut off. Following that, another cold glare streaked past, and the guard's head already flew into the air, then landed onto the ground. You, who are you? You dare to attack people from my Qilin prince's mansion. That scene terrified the other guards, because after all, the guard who was just killed was still an expert in the profound realm. If a person like that was so easily beheaded, it meant that the person on the road was not ordinary. At that instant, the person on the road slowly stood up and took the conical hat on his head off. A handsome and young face was revealed, and he smiled and said to the crowd indifferently, "I came here to slaughter the people from the Qilin prince's mansion. You are Chu Feng." After seeing that face, the colors of the guards' faces were instantly all gone because, at that very instant, the person who stopped in front of them was none other than Chu Feng. However, they remembered that Chu Feng was clearly only in the 7th level of the origin realm, yet he was emanating the aura of the 1st level of the profound realm. That change truly was unimaginable, and some didn't even dare to be sure whether the person in front of them was Chu Feng or not. Chu Feng. After hearing the name Chu Feng, Lin Ran stepped out of the carriage and came out. The current Lin Ran was heavily sweating, and his face was slightly green. His eyes were deeply caved in, and in addition to the chaotic hair, that appearance terrified people as much as they could be terrified. The most important part was that his aura was extremely petty. He dropped down to the 6th level of the profound realm, and it could be seen that the rebound of the forbidden medicine was indeed quite strong. However, after seeing Chu Feng, he was not only shocked. Instantly, boiling bloodlust also surged out, and he pointed at Chu Feng and said, "I never would have thought that you would dare to send yourself here. Kill him, kill." After the order, the remaining guards did not dare to be slow, and every single one of them let the aura of the profound realm out. The strong pressure forced its way towards Chu Feng. Simultaneously, 20 various strong martial skills were also thrown out. Not only did they not block Chu Feng's escape, that attack showed that they wanted to take Chu Feng's life. Asterisk swoosh 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 asterisk, however, light flashed under Chu Feng's feet, and his entire body became a row of light. He quickly dodged the densely packed martial skills, and with a blink, he arrived in front of the guards. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk. Following that, Chu Feng clenched both of his hands and 2 big blades appeared in his palm. They became 2 golden-colored blurs as they endlessly flew everywhere. After the golden blurs stopped, the 20 profound realm experts from the Qilin prince's mansion were all beheaded and killed by Chu Feng. Your aura, that bodily martial skill, you are Mr. Gray Cloak. At that instant, Lin Ran could finally not remain calm anymore because he astonishingly discovered that Chu Feng's current aura, Chu Feng's current battle power, and Chu Feng's mysterious bodily methods he displayed were exactly the same as Mr. Gray Cloak's who chased after Gong Luyun in the Valley of 100 Bends. He suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. Mr. Gray Cloak who chased after Gong Luyun and killed the others did not have connections with Chu Feng because Chu Feng was Mr. Gray Cloak. Half a year ago, Chu Feng already had the strength to kill Gong Luyun. Hesh, you found out about it. It seems that you aren't stupid, huh? However, do you remember what I said in the Valley of 100 Bends that day? Next time we meet, I will take your life. Chu Feng had a light smile on his face, but his gaze was icy cold. HMPH. If you want to take my life, you need to have that strength. On that day, I was able to force you to escape for your life. Today, I can cut your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Lin Ran was furious. As he insanely howled, he extended his hand towards his cosmos sack. A black-colored forbidden medicine appeared in his palm once again. He who received the rebound of the forbidden medicine no longer had the battle power that he previously had. So, if he wanted to defeat the current Chu Feng, he had to use forbidden medicine again. Although it would greatly harm him, it was the only thing he could do at that moment. Asterisk whoosh asterisk ah. But how could Chu Feng give that chance to him? The light under Chu Feng's feet flashed, and he already dashed in front of Lin Ran. Following that, the big blade in his hand mercilessly sliced down, and after a glare swept past with snapping noises, blood sprayed out in Lin Ran's hand that was holding the forbidden medicine was already chopped off by Chu Feng. After cutting his hand off, Chu Feng held the forbidden medicine in his hand. As he looked at the forbidden medicine which was filled with strange power, Chu Feng curled his lips and said, "Although this thing harms people quite a bit, it should still be worth something. I'll take it." As he spoke, Chu Feng put the forbidden medicine away. After that, he looked at the disconnected palm under Lin Ran's legs, spit on it, and said, "As for this thing, even dogs won't eat it, so it is useless to keep it." After speaking, Chu Feng raised his feet and stamped Lin Ran's disconnected palm into meat paste. "Ah tilde tilde tilde, I will skin you alive." As he saw his own palm being stamped into meat paste by Chu Feng, Lin Ran truly saw it with his eyes, but ached in his heart. He madly pounced towards Chu Feng. However, because of the rebound from the forbidden medicine, his current cultivation was restricted to the 6th level of the profound realm. It was even extremely petty, so how could he possibly defeat Chu Feng? "Damn you!" Chu Feng kicked out and directly kicked Lin Ran to the ground. He looked at Lin Ran and said, "You really like seeing other people castrate themselves, huh? Today, I show you how you get castrated by someone else." After speaking, Chu Feng's big leg was suddenly raised. "No!" At that instant, Lin Ran was terrified as he hysterically screamed out. But would Chu Feng listen to his words? Chu Feng's foot ruthlessly stamped down, and with a puchai on Lin Ran's pants, blood splattered around his crotch section. His genitals were stamped into meat paste by Chu Feng. "Heh, why is it so small? I couldn't even feel anything." Chu Feng smacked his lips, and as he looked at Lin Ran with a lifeless expression, he felt quite refreshed in his heart. At that instant, Lin Ran's face was like ash. The pain he felt from his body was not comparable to the pain in his heart. He had no son, as he was decapitated by Chu Feng. He had no genitals, as they were stamped into meat paste by Chu Feng. He truly was not going to have a later generation, as he had no sons or grandsons. "I say, you are still the head manager of the Lin clan from the Qilin Prince's mansion. What are you so poor? You only have a few dozen high-quality, profound medicine on you. These aren't even enough to fill my teeth." Chu Feng took Lin Ran's Cosmos sack off, and he was currently searching inside it. "Kill me?" Lin Ran deathly gloomily said those words. "What did you say?" Chu Feng acted as if he didn't hear them. "Kill me?" Lin Ran loudly howled. "Oh, you want to die?" Chu Feng chuckled, then bent down and quietly said to Lin Ran, "You want to reunite with your son?" You, what do you mean?" After hearing Chu Feng's words, Lin Ran's face greatly changed once again because in this life he had no sons. His only son was Gong Luyun, but no one should have known that Gong Luyun was his son. Obviously, Chu Feng's words meant that he knew something already. "Heh, I don't mean anything. If you want to reunite, I will grant you that wish. However, before that, I haven't tortured you enough." Chu Feng strangely smiled, and a sharp dagger appeared in his hand. He stabbed towards one of Lin Ran's eyes. "Ah tilde tilde tilde." After that, on the little road, various types of painful cries kept on ringing out. Only after a good while did they gradually quiet down. The school promotion assembly for the Azure Dragon School was held as scheduled. Other than the powerful people from various places that stayed behind, many nearby powers heard the news and went over to congratulate. However, when the people who went to congratulate saw that the people who welcomed them were guards from Qilin Prince's mansion who wore golden armor, all of them were quite frightened. But when they found out that the guards from the Qilin Prince's mansion were ordered by Chu Feng to do such strange jobs because they offended Chu Feng, they were even more shocked. Chu Feng became brothers with Lord Chu Feng. That news was too explosive and quite inconceivable to many people. In addition to the miracle in which Chu Feng, who was in the 7th level of the origin realm, defeated Gong Lu Yun, who had the cultivation of the 4th level of the profound realm, people felt that Chu Feng was quite brilliant and mysterious. So, even more people wanted to see Chu Feng. They wanted to see the grandeur of the genius, but it was in vain. As on the important day of the school promotion assembly, Chu Feng did not show himself. No one knew where he went, but they only heard that he secluded himself for cultivation. At the same time, Gong Tianping and the other people from the Black Tortoise City already returned to the Black Tortoise City. The current Gong Tianping was enduring the pain of losing his son, so he isolated himself, and he was not willing to see anyone. However, when several big characters from the Qilin Prince's mansion led a huge army to visit, he had no choice but to come out to meet them. What? Lord Lin Ran hasn't returned to the prince's mansion yet. This isn't right. Looking at the distance, he should have already returned back. Within a guest hall, Gong Tianping had a nervous face as he looked at the several old people from the Qilin Prince's mansion's Lin clan. Yeah, that's why we're worried. Perhaps some incident happened on the road. The other Lin clan members who went to the Azure Dragon School are being pressured by Chu Feng in the Azure Dragon School, so we cannot understand the situation. That is why we came to you to find out about more things. The old people's strength were not weak, and they were all in the 7th level of the profound realm. However, their auras were all stronger than Gong Tianping's, and they were the backbones of the Lin Lan in the Qilin Prince's mansion. My lords, on that day, Chu Feng injured Lord Lin Ran quite heavily, and he also has some special relationship with Chu Feng. Do you think that it's possible Chu Feng intentionally allowed Lord Lin Ran to return, then hiddenly imprisoned him again? Gong Tianping guessed. He wouldn't. Although Chu Feng does things quite madly, he does things quite openly and just. He is extremely loyal to the prince's mansion, and even though he is on bad terms with my Lin clan, he would absolutely not kill people from the Qilin Prince's mansion. I feel that this matter wasn't done by Chu Feng. The several old people shook their heads. Let me in, let me in. Milady, wait. Milady, milady. But just at that time, there was some clamoring outside the guest hall. Following that, the closed doors were suddenly kicked open by someone. A woman with tears all over her pale white face intruded under the accompany of several guards. What are you doing in here? Don't you know that I'm receiving some guests? Quickly get out of here. After seeing that woman, Gong Tianping rose and angrily yelled. That woman was none other than Gong Tianping's wife and Gong Lu Yun's mother. If it was under normal circumstances, after being yelled at like that by Gong Tianping, she would have already been so terrified, and she wouldn't dare to speak anymore. However, she was like a completely different person today. Not only did she not leave, she even used her trembling hands to point at Gong Tianping, and she said while grinding her teeth, "Gong Tianping, you are quite a heartless person. Even if Lion wasn't born from you and me, you didn't need to kill him so cold-heartedly. After all, he still called you father for 20 years, and in his heart, you are truly his father. And also Lord Lin Ran. So what if he's Lion's blood-related father? Lion wasn't born from secret affairs between me and him. We already knew each other before I even knew you. But you killed him, and you even so insanely tortured him to such a wretched state. Are you even a person? Are you a demon?" After speaking to that point, tears fell like rain, and her voice was already hoarse. Her trembling body trembled even more intensely. "You, what nonsense are you speaking?" At that instant, fog filled Gong Tianping's head because of her. He walked up, he strongly slapped the woman's face, and she was thrown dozens of meters away. Hit me to death. Since Lion is dead, I don't want to live anymore. But before I die, I must tie an insane demon like you with the ropes of the law. My lords, Lord Lin Ran has already been killed by this mad Gong Tianping. His body is in Gong Tianping's room right now. The woman cried her complaints out to the several old people, and at the same time, She climbed up from the ground and started to walk out while stumbling. The other old people from the Qilin prince's mansion had tense expressions. They looked at one another, then quickly followed the woman. "My lords, do not listen to her incoherent nonsense. Because my son died, she received mental blows, so that is why she spoke such insane words. Normally, she isn't like this." Seeing that, Gong Tianping also quickly explained, but the several old people did not care about him. Under the lead of the woman, the group of people quickly arrived to the room that Gong Tianping lived in. After opening the room, other than the woman, not a single person who looked wasn't stunned. Inside the room, a naked body was hung there. That body was incomplete. It did not have any hands nor feet, and it didn't even have its third leg. However, the face of that corpse was still complete, and it was Lin Ran from the Qilin prince's mansion. However, both of Lin Ran's eyes were scooped out. His tongue was cut, and there was a sign hung from his neck. On the sign, the big word adulterer was written on it. "Gong Tianping, look at what you have done. Even if Lion was born from me and Lord Lin Ran, you did not need to torture him like this. You are truly too heartless." After seeing Lin Ran in such a wretched state, the woman miserably cried again. Heavens, this. Gong Tianping even knelt to the ground with a poof, and he was completely stupefied by the scene in front of him. "Gong Tianping, my Qilin prince's mansion has developed your Gong family in such a way, yet you dare to harm Lord Lin Ran like this because of some personal grudges." One of the old people pointed at Gong Tianping and loudly reprimanded. Men, take this Gong family down. Kill all these bastards that ought to die, and not a single chicken or dog will remain." Another old person directly ran out and yelled at the Qilin army who set up camp outside the Black Tortoise City. As for the third old man, he was even more straightforward. He just bluntly attacked Gong Tianping and slammed his palm down on Gong Tianping's brain. After all 7 of his facial orifices bled, he still yelled, "If I don't split your corpse into 8 pieces, my hatred in my heart cannot be dispelled, and I would not be able to face Lord Lin Ran's soul in the heavens." After knowing about what happened, the Qilin army that set up camp outside had fury that rose to the skies. Mercilessly, they started a massacre in the Gong family, because without doing that, they could not soothe the flames of fury in their hearts. Because of Lin Ran's death, the Gong family sank into a desperate situation. Immediately, miserable cries kept on ringing out, and bit by bit, they were being annihilated by the Qilin army. They were being removed from the Azure province. As the Gong family were being annihilated, on the peak of a certain palace in the Black Tortoise City, a young man was standing there. It was Chu Feng. As he looked at the Gong family who was being massacred, there was not a trace of pity on Chu Feng's face. He only looked towards the sky and sorrowfully said, "Father, the people who harmed you have already gotten a suitable punishment. You can close your eyes in peace." The news of the Azure Dragon School leaping to become a first-rate school quickly spread throughout the Azure province. Within the borders of the Azure province, suddenly, another first-rate school appeared. That was a huge news, and naturally, it caught the attention of various powers in the Azure province. At the same time, something that caught the attention of people was Chu Feng. Chu Feng became the #1 disciple in the Azure Dragon School. Not only did he behead Gong Luyun, who was in the 4th level of the Profound Realm with the cultivation of the 7th level of the Origin Realm, he also became sworn brothers with the chief of the Qi clan from the Qilin prince's mansion, Chu Feng. His strength and status was terrifyingly strong. The various rumors about Chu Feng were simply like legends, so that caused many people to not blindly believe everything, and they remained a suspicious attitude. But no matter what, the name Chu Feng already spread throughout the Azure province and became the topic of excited discussion by various people. At the same time, another news made people feel shocked. It was that the city lord of the Black Tortoise City, Gong Tianping, cruelly killed Lin Ran when he was heavily injured. That caused the Qilin prince's mansion to be enraged, and they completely annihilated the Gong family. "Chu Feng, you finally returned." We've already heard of the news about you defeating Gong Luyun. You are simply too outstanding, and you are truly the pride of our Chu family. Yeah, Chu Feng. I even heard that our Azure Dragon School became a first-rate school, and you also became the #1 disciple in the Azure Dragon School. Is that true? Chu Feng's arrival to where the young generation of the Chu family hid caused everyone to be joyful. They were all excited, because the current Chu Feng was no longer the little brat whom they looked down upon. He became a genius who gave them glory and pride, a family member who they were extremely proud of. Ho, that's less significant. Today I came here to announce some good news to everyone. Chu Feng sat in the hall and said while smiling at the crowd, "What good news?" Everyone started to get excited. Several gazes tightly stared at Chu Feng, and their eyes were full of expectation. In order to allow everyone's cultivation to increase to another stage, I helped you guys apply for some martial skills as well as some mysterious techniques from the school head, and he has already agreed. As he spoke, Chu Feng threw a cosmos sack out. After the radiance spread out from the cosmos sack, several books appeared on the table in the hall. Wah Chu Feng, I simply love you to death. As they looked at those books, the Chu family crowd instantly went mad. Even Chu Guyu's eyes glittered, and joy surged into his eyes. It was because those were not normal books. They were mysterious techniques and martial skills. Mysterious techniques were things that only core disciples could cultivate. And there were also rank 1 to rank 5 martial skills there. The things that they did not even dare to think about in the past, the things that they would have never gotten the chance to even touch, were all displayed in front of them at that instant. How could they not be excited? At the same time that they were excited and joyful, they couldn't help but gratefully look at Chu Feng, because the reason why they could enjoy all of that today was because all of it was bestowed by Chu Feng. Also, I have another news. I want to tell everyone that the culprit who harmed my Chu family has already been found, and I already let him pay the appropriate price. Suddenly, Chu Feng seriously spoke. Really, Chu Feng who was the culprit? As he mentioned that, everyone stood up, and their emotions were a bit stirred up. The culprit was Gong Luyun, Chu Feng said. What? It was him. After knowing that, everyone was shocked. But after they were shocked, some people also relievedly said, Gong Luyun has already been killed by you, and the Gong family has also been massacred by the Qilin prince's mansion. On that topic, they did indeed get the punishment that they deserved. They committed crimes and they deserve to be punished, but sadly I can't personally kill them, or else I would feel a lot more refreshed. Chu Chung fiercely said. Although his Gong family wasn't killed by me personally, they still died because of me. Chu Feng lightly smiled, then also said how he killed Lin Ran, and how he used Gong Luyun's mother to frame Lin Ran's death on Gong Tianping. Chu Feng, you are simply too brilliant. As expected from you to think of such a borrowing a knife to kill method. Yeah, his Gong family is protected by the Qilin prince's mansion, so if we really kill them, the Qilin prince's mansion would not forgive us. However, this way, the Qilin prince's mansion took the initiative to exterminate the Gong family. That is simply too impressive. After knowing the truth, everyone was madly happy, and joy was written on their faces. Chu Feng, the relationship between Lin Ran and Gong Luyun's mother was so hidden, and even Gong Tianping nor Gong Luyun did not know about it. How did you know? Chu Guyu curiously asked. Heh. At first, after knowing that Gong Luyun let the 5 Tiger Village massacre my Chu family, I went to the Black Tortoise City and observed Gong Luyun mother for a good while since I wanted to know where Gong Luyun was. I discovered that, although Gong Luyun's mother did not know where Gong Luyun was, every day, she would go the riverside by herself and mutter some past things to herself, and many times, a name would be mentioned, Lin Ran's name. In addition, Lin Ran was abnormally kind to Gong Luyun, so I felt that something was fishy. Before killing Lin Ran, I tested it and I asked him whether Gong Luyun was his family, and from his reactions, I determined that Gong Luyun was his privately born son. Chu Feng smiled and explained. Chu Feng, your observation power is a bit crazy, isn't it? At that instant, as the crowd looked at Chu Feng, their gazes had a bit more respect, because Chu Feng had the abilities that none of them had. Not only was it martial cultivation talent, it was also a careful heart. After that, Chu Feng left a large amount of cultivating resources for Chu Guyu and the others. He left the resources he stole from Lin Ran, the people from the Qilin Prince's mansion, as well as from the Black Tortoise City over to Chu Guyu and the others. That caused their tongues to be tied into a knot, because such a huge amount of cultivation resources was enough for them to use for over a dozen years, even if they used them whenever they wished to. As for Chu Feng, the reason why he left all those cultivation resources to the Chu family and not use them himself was because the required resources for the current him to make a breakthrough for one level was too terrifying. Although the resources were great wealth for Chu Guyu and the others, to Chu Feng, they were truly only enough for him to fill the cracks between his teeth. After knowing everything, the people in the Chu family were extremely excited, and Chu Feng also specially stayed for a night. He happily drank through the night with his family. Originally, a reunion of family was already happy, and what about in addition to an avenged hatred? So, on that night, everyone in the Chu family were extremely joyful, and the huge rock that was pressed against their hearts was finally lifted. Chu Feng, where should we go now? Your Chu family's hatred has already been avenged, so it should be time to find some source energy for me, right? From last time, after absorbing the source energy from that white tiger villa's ancestor, I couldn't meet any tasty ones, and my cultivation has not really improved. After leaving the city in which the Chu family were hiddenly living in, Chu Feng rode Little White and headed back to the Azure Dragon School. As for Eggy, she kept on aggrievedly nagging. When the white tiger villa's ancestor lived, he was an expert in the heaven realm, so naturally, it would hard to have any improvements after absorbing his source energy, then absorbing source energy from those in the profound realm. But don't worry, I think that this time you will have good harvests. Chu Feng smiled. What do you mean? Eggy expressed confusion. I think that it is time to open the 1,000-bone graveyard. Chu Feng lightly smiled, then urged Little White under him to quicken the speed back to the Azure Dragon School. The spiritual medicine mountain was a forbidden land. Only inner court disciples were allowed in there when the spiritual medicine hunt happened every year. This year's spiritual medicine hunt just ended recently, and the spiritual medicine mountain was at its strictest time, so no one was allowed in. However, that rule was completely useless in front of Chu Feng. Even if outsiders doubted Chu Feng's strength, there would be no one who dared to doubt him within the Azure Dragon School. After all, on that day, they did indeed personally witness how Chu Feng beheaded Gong Lu Yun. In addition to Chu Feng's special status, who would even dare to block him? As long as Chu Feng said a few words, stating that he wanted to enter the spiritual medicine mountain for a walk, the elder who guarded there would most likely immediately open the gates and allow Chu Feng in. However, Chu Feng did not want to attract too much attention, so he did not trouble the guarding elders. He used his imperial sky technique, descended from the skies, and entered the spiritual medicine mountain. Asterisk hum 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 asterisk at that instant. Strange light was being emitted from Chu Feng's chest. Being enveloped by that light, a complex spirit formation map appeared in front of Chu Feng's eyes. It was slowly moving around, and it was quite magical. As he followed that map around and bit by bit, Chu Feng searched for the location of the 1,000-bone graveyard. Outstanding. This is too outstanding. The entrance to this emperor tomb must have been recreated by someone, or else its security wouldn't be so tight. Luckily, when you first entered the 1,000-bone graveyard, the old man bestowed this map to you, or else without this map, it would be impossible for you to find the entrance with your current methods. As Chu Feng searched, Eggy praised. Chu Feng, who was in the environment himself, could truly feel the mysteriousness of the entrance. It could be said that the 1,000-bone graveyard was the entrance to the Emperor Tomb. However, this entrance was different when compared to the entrance of the Vermilion Bird Mountain Range. It was the same as the White Tiger Mountain Range's entrance, as both entrances were changed by someone, and they changed them quite complicatedly. This entrance was always shifting around, and it was hidden deep underground. If Chu Feng did not have the spirit formation map, he would not have any hope in finding the entrance. But luckily, he had the map, and in addition to him being a Grey Cloak world spiritist, his comprehension in the spirit formation techniques was not comparable to his former days. So, after some complications, he finally found the entrance to the Emperor Tomb. The entrance was very special. It was not an obvious tunnel. After finding the entrance, Chu Feng himself had to lay a spirit formation. Then he had to use the map as a medium to connect to the entrance below. He could only enter after creating a spirit formation tunnel. When Chu Feng finished laying the spirit formation tunnel, and after stepping into it, the tunnel immediately closed behind him, and it did not leave any traces. After Chu Feng went through the spirit formation tunnel and entered the so-called entrance, even he was stupefied by the scene in front of him. That place was an extremely vast and huge palace. The thick pillars, the large area, the special materials, they made Chu Feng feel extremely powerful might. And in every single corner, there were extremely strong spirit formations laid there, so strong that almost no one in the profound realm was able to damage the palace in the slightest. From that, it could be seen how strong the person who created the palace was. That area was no longer a simple palace. It was an indestructible underground castle. However, other than those, there were also the boundless bones that appeared under Chu Feng's feet, countless remains, innumerable, and from rough estimations, there were several tens of thousands of remains. They stacked up under his feet like an ocean. And that scene was exactly the same as the 1,000-bone graveyard he saw a year ago. Therefore, Chu Feng was able to confirm that it was undoubtedly the 1,000-bone graveyard. Why so many powerful remains, and their source energies still remain. Although there isn't anyone in the heaven realm, they are still all experts in the peak of the profound realm. With so many, I can certainly make breakthroughs. Chu Feng quickly absorbed them. After absorbing them, my cultivation can certainly rise greatly. In that instant, the most excited one was none other than Eggy, because to her, they were not simple bones. They were abundant meals, treasures that could raise her cultivation. Don't worry, little girl, all of them are yours. Chu Feng lightly smiled, but he first spread his spirit power out. After cautiously scanning around him and discovering that there were no abnormalities, he started to unrestrainedly consume the source energy from the remains. As he absorbed with such extreme power, Eggy's cultivation, which was stuck and didn't move forward, finally started to climb again. Very quickly, she rose from the first level of the profound realm to the second level of the profound realm, and her cultivation was still rapidly rising. Under that situation, both Chu Feng and Eggy were extremely excited. Eggy becoming stronger meant that Chu Feng was becoming stronger. He had another layer of defense for his life. But at the same time that he was excited, Chu Feng was also thinking. The several tens of thousands of experts were all in the profound realm. What terrifying battle power that was! Not to mention the current Azure province. Perhaps not even a single province from the other 8 provinces could gather such battle power. Why did so many powerful people like them all die here? What took their lives away? Was it the guardian of the Emperor Tomb, or were there other reasons? As he thought without result, Chu Feng used his strong spirit formation power, in addition to Eggy's unique power, to completely suck the several tens of thousands of source energies from the bones dry. At that instant, Eggy's cultivation was no longer in the second level of the profound realm. She went another step forward and entered the third level of the profound realm. With that cultivation, in addition to Chu Feng's golden-colored lightning, his cultivation could reach the fourth level of the profound realm. If he was in the fourth level of the profound realm, with Chu Feng's methods, he did not need to be afraid of those in the 8th level of the profound realm. and he could fight those in the 9th level of the profound realm. Although he was not invincible within the profound realm, he basically did not need to be afraid of anything anymore. That made Chu Feng and Eggy to be incomparably joyful. Little demon, I was indeed not mistaken. In this 1 year, your speed of growth was even quicker than I imagined. However, as the two of them were submerged within happiness, an aged voice suddenly rang out behind Chu Feng. He turned his head around to look, and he only saw an old man standing behind him. He wore an azure-colored robe, held a strange but special fly whisk, and faint light flickered around his body. He was smiling as he looked at Chu Feng, and that person was the old man who granted the map to Chu Feng. The old man was as strong as usual, even if Chu Feng was a cultivator in the 7th level of the origin realm as well as Grey Cloak World Spiritist. When he stood in front of the old man, he still felt how weak and small he was. "Senior, are you the creator of the Azure Dragon School, the Azure Dragon founder?" Chu Feng's gaze was solemn, and he asked with an extremely respectful tone, because no matter if it was in terms of attire or his aura, he seemed way too similar to the legendary Azure Dragon founder. "Haha, I never would have thought that you would be this smart. You should have already guessed who I am, right?" The old man laughed, and despite not giving a real answer, he already implied an answer. At that moment, Chu Feng was extremely happy. He quickly half-knelt on the floor and paid his respects to him. He reverentially said, "Chu Feng pays his respects to the school founder. So you're called Chu Feng, not bad. Not a bad name. Ah, Chu Feng, no need to be too polite, rise. Your talent is fine if you're able to enter the 7th level of the origin realm from the 4th level of the spirit realm in 1 year, and giving you spirit power, and the map to this place was indeed not in vain. Follow me. I have already prepared a great present for you, and it has just been waiting for you." After the Azure Dragon founder looked at Chu Feng for a while in satisfaction, he turned around and walked deeper into the main hall. Chu Feng did not dare to be slow, so he also quickly followed. However, at the same time in his heart, he felt even more respect towards the Azure Dragon founder, because from his words, he was sure that his spirit power was opened up by him. This old guy has quite some skill. Although your spirit power is indeed inborn and not bestowed by him, if he did not strengthen your spirit power to break the binding seal, I'm afraid that your spirit power wouldn't have been discovered anytime soon. You would also not be able to meet me, and you would not have been able to have such big improvements in such a short period of time. Eggy reminded, so that means spirit power can really be granted by someone. As long as you have a certain amount of power, even people without spirit power can be given spirit power. Chu Feng was quite surprised. Since Eggy spoke like that, it also meant that the Azure Dragon founder spoke the truth. Of course, it's possible. However, the people who accepts the spirit power must have strong enough physique. On that day, the several people who chased after you were also given spirit power, and because they could not endure the spirit power, they died. Also, the person who grants spirit power must also be a world spiritist. Only spirit formation methods can transfer spirit power into another person's body. Also, that world spiritist must at least have the methods of a blue cloak world spiritist. Eggy explained. What? Blue Cloak World Spiritist? Is the school founder a Blue Cloak World Spiritist? Chu Feng was stunned. What's so surprising about that? From what I see when he lived, he might not have only been a blue cloak. It's very possible that he infinitely neared, or even actually reached the level of purple cloak world spiritists. Eggy said, "That's strong." Chu Feng couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air. As he looked at the Azure Dragon founder, his gaze couldn't avoid but contain even more respect. But after some more thinking, Chu Feng wasn't as shocked as before. After all, the Azure Dragon founder was the #1 expert back then in the 9 provinces. It wasn't strange for a character like him to have methods of purple cloak world spiritists. Chu Feng, the world spirit in your body is quite impressive. Its appetite is quite huge as it is able to absorb so many source energies in such a short period of time. Suddenly, the Azure Dragon founder spoke. "Ancestor, you. After hearing those words, Chu Feng was surprised. He never would have thought that the world spirit in his body was seen through by him. No need to worry. It is not strange for a world spirit to be willing to help a talented person like you. Besides, it is a very strong world spirit, so it can be said to be a good thing. I am happy for you. The Azure Dragon founder cheerfully smiled. Seeing that the ancestor did not pursue the matter any further, Chu Feng also relaxed. He quickly changed the topic and said, "Ancestor, where did these bones come from? What caused so many powerful people to die in this place?" Chu Feng, without hiding the truth, there is an emperor tomb in the Azure province, and this is one of the entrances to the tomb. On that year, innumerable experts came here and they wanted to open the emperor tomb, but ultimately all of them died here. The ones outside here are only the ones who died first. Deeper into the emperor tomb, the corpses of heaven realm experts can gather and even form mountains. The Azure Dragon founder narrated, "This emperor tomb is that terrifying." Chu Feng was shocked. However, Eggy, who was in Chu Feng's body, was madly happy. She said to Chu Feng, quickly ask this old guy where the remains for the heaven realm experts are located at." But before even letting Chu Feng open his mouth to inquire, the Azure Dragon founder spoke first. "Tell the world spirit in your body not to think about those source energies from those remains, because you wouldn't even able to enter that place. Even I cannot." After hearing those words, Chu Feng did not ask anymore because he discovered that the Azure Dragon founder was simply too strong. It was as if he was a parasite in his belly. He could completely see through what he was thinking, and even what Eggy was thinking. On the remaining road, the Azure Dragon founder only asked a bit about Chu Feng's journey in the past year. He did not ask about the state of the Azure Dragon School. It could be seen that the old man did not seem to care about the school he established himself. After hurrying, the two of them finally arrived next to a pool. That pool was very special. It was not even 2 meters deep, yet the bottom could not be seen, and it was emitting a fog-like gas. The most important thing was that Chu Feng was able to feel endless streams of the world's power from the water, spiritual energy, origin power, and even profound power. He could feel all of it in the water. Ancestor, this water. Chu Feng felt even more astonished. He knew that the water was certainly a treasure. It was treasure that had great benefits towards one's cultivation. Using him as an example, even making a breakthrough past one level, needed an enormous amount of resources. However, the profound power and origin power in the pool could certainly help him quickly break through. "This is the present that I prepared for you. The contains spiritual energy, origin power, and profound power. Although spiritual energy is the strongest here, with origin power in the middle and profound power being the weakest, it can still greatly assist a cultivator like you in this realm. Cultivate in this pool. As long as your comprehension power is strong enough, several days later, you should be able to break through into the 8th level of the origin realm." The Azure Dragon founder explained. Just at that time, Chu Feng impatiently jumped in. After Chu Feng entered the pool, the spiritual energy, origin power, and profound power in the started to form layers of vortexes, and they insanely surged towards Chu Feng. They were currently being refined by Chu Feng. This boy's comprehension power is a bit terrifying. Looking at how it is, it seems that there is no need for several days. He should be able to break into the 8th level of the origin realm after a day. As he looked at the swirling water in the pool, then looked at Chu Feng, who was not afraid at all, the Azure Dragon founder stroked his own snow-white beard and happily smiled. But just at that time a strand of strange undulation could be felt. Chu Feng's aura was rapidly rising, and he reached the 8th level of the origin realm. At that moment, the Azure Dragon founder's originally unflustered expression instantly greatly changed. He was astounded in many ways, and he could no longer remain calm. Chu Feng kept on using the mysterious technique while he was in the essence pool. His aura was still rapidly increasing as it merged with the energies from the pool. They kept on surging into his body, and they were absorbed by him. As he was being imbued by such boundless energy, soon after Chu Feng broke into the 8th level of the origin realm, he was met with another opportunity to break through. He continued to make a breakthrough, and with a burst of energy, he successfully entered the 9th level of the origin realm. At that instant, Chu Feng was incomparably joyful because the essence pool was truly too impressive. If it continued, Chu Feng also felt that there was hope in breaking into the profound realm. But his hopes were in vain, as shortly after he stepped into the 9th level of the origin realm, Chu Feng helplessly discovered that the boundless energy was diminishing, and at the end, he could not even feel a single trace of energy. Chu Feng opened his eyes and spread his spirit power out. He found out that the energy in the essence pool did not decrease, and it was as strong as before. But then, why was the current him unable to absorb anything? Little boy, your body seems to be a bit special, eh? Just at that time, the Azure Dragon founder who stood next to the pool spoke, and within his abstruse gaze, there was astonishment. Ancestor, what do you mean? At the same time that Chu Feng was astonished, he was also confused. He was astonished because the Azure Dragon founder could see that his body was special. He was confused because clearly there was still energy in the essence pool, yet he could not absorb any. This essence pool is extremely special. Although the energy it contains is thick, one can only absorb a limited amount of energy. Normally, as long as a person's comprehension power isn't bad, the energy provided by the essence pool can allow that person to rise from the first level of the spirit realm to the peak of the profound realm. Of course, that depends on everyone's different talents, so the length of time required is different as well. If they were slow, dozens of years. If they were fast, a few years or even shorter. Boy, clearly, from what I have seen, you are the person who absorbed the energy in this essence pool the quickest. So quick that in an instant, you absorbed energy that others needed a few or even dozens of years to absorb. Such terrifying absorbing method isn't only talent. Even if you cultivated some demonic techniques, you cannot do that. So, that means that your body is very special. So special that it can automatically absorb the purest energy for you to use. I am not mistaken, right? The Azure Dragon founder smiled as he looked at Chu Feng and analyzed. Ancestor, you are correct. My body is indeed a bit special. As long as there are large amounts of resources for me to use, my cultivation can quickly increase. This is also why I can make breakthroughs past so many levels within a single year. However, the higher cultivation I reach, the more terrifying amount of resources I will need. Just as you said, in an instant, I absorbed the energy that others needed dozens of years to absorb, and what I absorbed was the purest. But when others can absorb enough energy to step into the peak of the profound realm, I can only make breakthroughs from the 7th level of the origin realm to the 9th level of the origin realm here. This time, Chu Feng did not hide anything anymore, and he admitted the matter about his special body. First of all, in front this Azure Dragon founder, it was truly hard to hide anything because he had too much experience, and it was very hard to fool his omniscient eye. Also, since the Azure Dragon founder was willing to help him raise his cultivation, Chu Feng hoped with the Azure Dragon founder's strong cultivation, he could bring some even more stronger cultivation resource for him to use in the Emperor Tomb. If he could, that would be the best. For anything, if there are benefits, there are deficits. In the road of martial cultivation, the most serious taboo is to rush for short benefits. Although blindly taking origin or profound medicine, or other cultivation resources can raise one's cultivation greatly in a short period of time, it would be difficult for them to want to break through bottlenecks in the future. However, you are not restricted by that, and you can freely consume cultivation resources to raise your cultivation, and you aren't affected at all. This is a benefit that others do not have. However, if you want to raise your cultivation, you need to pay a more hefty price when compared to others. That is the deficit. As for whether such a special method is good or bad, will depend all on yourself. The Azure Dragon founder smiled and said, I understand. Chu Feng nodded because he could hear the implications behind his words. He told Chu Feng that his special body could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. As for whether it was good or bad, would all depend on Chu Feng himself. It also meant that it all relied on Chu Feng's personal abilities. He was implying that he was not going to give out any more cultivation resources to help Chu Feng, and if he wanted to raise his cultivation, it had to all depend on himself. Chu Feng, as a world spiritist, are you not curious why I am still alive after becoming a consciousness? Suddenly, the Azure Dragon founder smiled and asked, Ancestor, your abilities are powerful, so I'm sure that you must have some special method that allows you to live for so long and not be extinguished. Chu Feng respectfully replied, Haha, live for so long and not be extinguished. You overestimate me too much. In the road of martial cultivation, after reaching a certain realm, indeed, one can extend their age by taking life away from the heavens. However, that is a benefit that can only be gained after entering the martial lord realm. The age that can be obtained will vary depending on their talent. Normally, a martial lord can live 100 years longer than normal people, but regretfully, I was unable to step into that realm. Of course, even if I did step into that realm, 200 years has already passed and I should have already disappeared like smoke. However, Chu Feng, you are correct. I do indeed have special methods that allow me to not disappear after dying. All of this is relying on a treasure that I picked up from the Emperor tomb. The Azure Dragon founder lightly smiled, then continued walking deeper into the main hall. Seeing that, Chu Feng quickly followed, and after walking for 5,000 meters, there was a crystal coffin in front of them. Faint brilliance was lingering around the crystal coffin, and within it, there was a corpse. The countenance of the corpse was exactly the same as the Azure Dragon founder, who was next to Chu Feng. However, it was a real body, not a consciousness. After the time of 1,000 years, the Azure Dragon founder's remains were completely well and undamaged. Chu Feng, look, the pearl in his hand should be allowing his corpse to not rot and his consciousness to not extinguish. Eggy reminded. At that instant, Chu Feng also discovered that there was indeed a pearl as big as a chicken egg in the Azure Dragon founder's hands. The brilliance that covered the crystal coffin came from that pearl. Although this treasure wasn't able to save my life in the Emperor tomb, it can allow my corpse to not be ruined and my consciousness to not fade away. It is truly a treasure. But no matter how much more magical a treasure is, it cannot allow one to go against the heavens. So, after 100 years, my consciousness will weaken, and my corpse will rot as well. No matter what special methods I use to extend my death, I will still die soon. So, Chu Feng, the reason why I led you to this place is because I have a request. Suddenly, entreaty emerged into the Azure Dragon founder's gaze as he looked at Chu Feng. Ancestor, don't hesitate to order me anything. As long as I can do it, no matter if I climb up a mountain of blades or sink into an ocean of flames, I will not push it away. Seeing that, Chu Feng sincerely vowed and promised. It was exactly just how Eggy said it was. At first, if he didn't get the Azure Dragon founder's help in the 1,000-bone graveyard, it would not be possible for the current him to make a contract with Eggy. If it wasn't for Eggy's help, it would not be possible for him to have his current achievements. Without Eggy's protection, who knew how many times he would have died already. So, as he faced that ancestor, Chu Feng's gratitude did come from his heart. Chu Feng, the thing I want you to do isn't as serious as you say it is. Also, it is only a request, not an order. As for what it is, I only hope that before my consciousness fades away and before my corpse rots away, you can help me merge my consciousness with my corpse. The Azure Dragon founder smiled and said, merge your consciousness and corpse. Chu Feng slightly frowned and he felt confused. Although he was a world spiritist, he had never heard of merging a consciousness and a corpse. Ho, to be more clear, it's resurrecting an old guy like me. The Azure Dragon founder's smile was even more dazzling. What? Resurrection? This? At that instant, Chu Feng could no longer remain calm. Technically speaking, The current Azure Dragon founder was already a dead person. He was a dead person who was dead for a long time. If he wanted to revive with Chu Feng's help, that truly put Chu Feng in a difficult situation, because he really did not know how to help him. No need to get agitated. The world is big, and there are all sorts of strange things. If the consciousness does not get extinguished, the remains should not get ruined as well. As long as one has strong enough methods, in addition to treasures that prevent rotting, dead people can indeed be revived. Right now, my remains has not been destroyed yet, and even my consciousness is the same as how it started without a single trace of damage. That treasure pearl gives me the power to not decay for 1,000 years, so naturally it can help me revive after death. In this moment, everything is prepared. The only thing that is lacking is a person who can resurrect me, and this person must be a world spiritist. But you also know world spiritists thirst for source energy and their intense demand for treasures. No matter if it's my intact and undamaged corpse, or the treasure that prevents rotting, or even this consciousness, they are all things that world spiritists insanely yearn for. So, I must guarantee that the world spiritist would not take those things yet is also completely willing to resurrect me. Are you willing to help? At that instant, the Azure Dragon founder's gaze became deep. I'm willing. Of course I'm willing to. Ancestor, if you are able to revive, then my Azure Dragon School can also rise in power. The disciples will have a person who can protect them, and they will not need to be afraid of any troubles from others that come without reparations. Chu Feng nodded like a pellet drum, and the words he spoke came from his heart. After joining the Azure Dragon School, regardless of how disciples treated him or how other elders treated him, many elders, including the current school head, treated him extremely well and saved his life many times. So that caused Chu Feng to have quite deep feelings for the Azure Dragon School. Right now, if the school founder was able to revive, naturally, Chu Feng was willing to help him. Ha ha ha, indeed I was not mistaken. But Chu Feng, if you want to help me, you can't only say that on the surface. You need work hard, eh? If my guess is correct, you should be a Grey Cloak world spiritist right now, right? The Azure Dragon founder smiled and asked. Chu Feng nodded. Not bad. To be able to become a Grey Cloak world spiritist at this age means that your talent in that area is extremely strong. However, if you want to help me merge my consciousness and my corpse, you need to have the abilities of a Purple Cloak world spiritist. The Azure Dragon founder smiled and said, Purple Cloak world spiritist, that. Chu Feng was dumbfounded and he was quite frightened. Purple Cloak world spiritist. That was a legend that did not even exist in the entire continent of the 9 provinces. No need to be afraid. It's not like I want you to immediately become a Purple Cloak world spiritist. I can hold on for at least 100 more years, and I believe with your talent, as long as you have a certain amount of time, you can undoubtedly reach that stage. The Azure Dragon founder patted Chu Feng's shoulders, and after that, he grabbed towards the crystal coffin. A lump of light quickly flew out and landed within the Azure Dragon founder's palm. Then, he patted Chu Feng's head. At that instant, Chu Feng originally wanted to dodge, but he could do nothing as the speed was simply too quick. When Chu Feng reacted, the strange lump of light already entered Chu Feng's brain. The sudden sharp pain caused Chu Feng to hug his head with both of his hands, and he couldn't help but cry out. But that sharp pain only lasted for an instant before it disappeared. When he came to his senses, Chu Feng discovered with astonishment that there was something extra in his brain. It was a cultivation method for a mysterious technique, and it was even a high-level mysterious technique. To know that what Chu Feng was currently cultivating was a beginning-level mysterious technique. Middle-level mysterious techniques could only be found in the top-level first-rate schools, and as for high-level mysterious techniques, no one seemed to have any within the Azure province. Yet at that instant, he had one. How could Chu Feng not be excited by that? He simply so happy it was as though he was insane. If I pass a martial skill that is too strong down to you, it will only attract a killing disaster. However, mysterious techniques are different. Mysterious techniques are hidden within one's body, and although it can increase your battle power, other people will only admire your talent, and very few people will suspect that you cultivated a high-level mysterious technique. But don't worry, as long as you can help me merge my consciousness and my corpse to help me revive, not only will I pass a top-class martial skill down to you, I will even pass a peerless secret skill down to you. The Azure Dragon founder seriously said, "Secret skill." After hearing those words, Chu Feng's heart couldn't help but tighten. Just as he thought, the Azure Dragon founder did indeed gain a great benefit from that place, and he really did obtain a secret skill. However, Chu Feng still had doubts. Secret skills were hidden within one's body, and the cultivation methods could not be spoken out loud. Of course, unless he was willing to abandon such a powerful method in order to pass it down to himself. But who would throw away such a strong method and give it to others? Would the Azure Dragon founder really be willing to do that? After that, Chu Feng conversed quite a bit with the Azure Dragon founder, the creator of the Azure Dragon School. Hiddenly, he knew that the Azure Dragon founder was an expert in the peak of the heaven realm back then. He only needed a tiny bit more until he could enter the Martial Lord realm and become a Martial Lord. But it was useless, as even with such cultivation, he still died in the Emperor Tomb. From that, it could be seen how dangerous the Emperor Tomb was, and how scary it was. It could also be seen how outstanding the master of the Emperor Tomb was as well. After some more chatting, Chu Feng did not want to disturb the Azure Dragon founder's resting, so he took his leave. When Chu Feng left, the Azure Dragon founder reminded Chu Feng to not tell any other person about him still surviving as well as the Emperor Tomb. Of course, Chu Feng quickly promised because, unless forced with no choice, he would absolutely not tell any other person about something like that, even if the Azure Dragon founder did not remind him. After a few small problems, Chu Feng finally successfully left the entrance of the Emperor Tomb and returned to the Spiritual Medicine Mountains forest. At that instant, Chu Feng's mood was extremely good. In a single day, not only did his cultivation increase greatly by entering the peak of the Origin realm in one go, he even got a high-level mysterious technique. Even Egge's cultivation increased by 2 levels, as she stepped into the 3rd level of the Profound realm. That harvest could not be said to be not abundant, and naturally, Chu Feng was incomparably joyful. "Chu Feng, your school founder should not be trusted." But just as Chu Feng was rejoicing, Egge's abnormally worried voice suddenly rang out. "Egge, why so?" Egge's sudden words caused Chu Feng to be a bit taken aback. Clearly, the Azure Dragon founder was kind and he was great help towards him. Why shouldn't he be trusted? You are still too young. Because you are grateful towards him, and in addition he is your school's founder, you completely trust him. If you look at this from his perspective, switch the thinking up a bit and carefully reflect over it. Are you worth his trust? On what basis should he trust you on? He is the #1 expert 1,000 years ago who swept through the 9 provinces. Other than having quite some ability, such a character's brain is absolutely not simple. Since he discovered me as well as your special body, it can be seen from his observation power that he is an extremely powerful person. If I'm not mistaken back then, he was absolutely not the only person who looked for the Emperor Tomb. The tens of thousands of bones that you and I see can very possibly be the sacrifices that entered the Emperor Tomb along with him. He also personally said it. Deeper within the Emperor Tomb, there are many heaven realm remains. So from that, he must have gathered many experts from the 9 provinces when he first explored the Emperor Tomb. However, why did only he himself survive after so many experts entered the Emperor Tomb? To know when facing a strong enemy with absolute strength, they could certainly kill with a single strike. Even one's consciousness would be scattered with a hit, and they would not allow any chance of survival. Yet he survived, and he even got a treasure pearl. In addition, you also said that the reason why the Azure Dragon founder is able to gain such cultivation is because he relied on the good benefits he got from the Emperor Tomb. Therefore, he must have understood the Emperor tomb more than the others, so the death of those people. Enough. I know what you are trying to say. You want to say that the people who died from exploring the Emperor tomb were all used by my school's founder, right? Before Eggy even finished speaking, she was cut off by Chu Feng. That's right. If those people truly entered the Emperor tomb at the same time as him, they were certainly used by him. The very nature from a person like that has problems. Do you really think that trust is required? Eggy firmly said, putting aside that they are only your suspicions. Even if the people who died were truly killed by him, it was possible that they were great enemies, and they were the ones with ill intent at first. Anyway, history has already passed, and the life or death of those people are unrelated to me. I don't want to investigate this. As for whether he is trustable or not, I'm not that stupid, so I will be careful. Besides, when I have the methods of a purple cloak world spiritist, even if he wants to use me, he would have no way of harming me. Chu Feng confidently said, okay, just take it as me suspecting too much. After all, it is extremely hard for an old fox like him to easily believe a person. Seeing that Chu Feng was unafraid as he was confident, Eggy did not say much anymore. After that, as he brought back a body of benefits from the Azure Dragon founder, he returned to the Azure Dragon School's core zone. First, Chu Feng went over to Su Mei's residence. After the short conversation on the day when he was preparing to go to the Spirit Province, the two of them didn't really have a long talk. Chu Feng rather missed the little girl, and since he had the rare extra time today, naturally, Chu Feng wanted to go and have a cheerful talk with her. On the road, all the disciples and elders would go up and pay their respects when they saw Chu Feng. He could even hear sharp cries when he passed the areas where female disciple gathered. If he looked to the side, he could discover that the females were staring at him with unshifting eyes, like wolves and tigers. Chu Feng felt quite refreshed when he faced that situation. It was respect that was gained from strength, at least within the Azure Dragon School. He was no longer the little brat who was laughed at when seen. He was the #1 disciple, who everyone wanted to set up a relationship with. However, his thoughts were in vain, as Su Mei wasn't in the school. So Chu Feng went over to Su Ro's residence. Yet he never would have thought that even Su Ro wasn't there. At first, Chu Feng even felt a bit worried, because he felt that it wasn't normal for the two girls to disappear at the same time. But after knowing that their elder brother's birthday was coming up and they went back to celebrate, Chu Feng relaxed. Chu Feng, I've had quite some trouble trying to find you. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out behind Chu Feng. Lord School Head. After turning his head to look, Chu Feng discovered that Li Jiangqing, the school head of the Azure Dragon School, was currently smiling and looking at him while standing behind himself. Lord School Head, your aura. But the thing that Chu Feng did not expect was that Li Jiangqing's aura changed when compared to before. He was no longer in the 7th level of the profound realm. In the past short few days, the old man broke into the 8th level of the profound realm. That cultivation was the same as Lin ran before he used the forbidden medicine. He entered the realm of the peak of the profound realm. That cultivation was truly quite outstanding. Haha, I originally planned to make a breakthrough into this 8th level before the life and death battle between you and Gong Lu Yun. But I couldn't do anything about the breakthrough as it was a few days late. A disaster almost happened to my Azure Dragon School. Luckily, you had connections with Lord Chu Feng, or else my Azure Dragon School's 1,000 years of foundation was truly going to all be destroyed in this generation. Li Jiangqing said with a humorous tone. Ho, Lord School Head, if you say it like that, it truly makes me feel ashamed. Chu Feng did feel quite bad because if Chu Feng didn't arrive on that day, the Azure Dragon School was really going to be annihilated, and such a calamity would have all been caused by him. Haha, you still know how to be ashamed, huh? Come, drink some tea with me. Incidentally, I have some things I want to discuss with you. As he saw Chu Feng's embarrassed expression, Qi Zhanqing happily and loudly laughed again. After that, Chu Feng was called to a more tranquil pavilion by Qi Zhanqing. Then with a wave of his big sleeve, several books were thrown in front of Chu Feng as he said, "Chu Feng, look at these. These are." Without seeing, he truly would not know, but after seeing, he could jump up from fright. Chu Feng astonishedly discovered that there was a middle-level mysterious technique, as well as rank 6 martial skills. All of them were the creations of the Azure Dragon founder, and they were truly unique skills left behind by a top-level expert. My Azure Dragon School's founder is the Azure Dragon founder. How would it possible that we don't have any middle-level mysterious techniques or rank 6 martial skills? However, since we were in the decline earlier and I was afraid that other schools would set their eyes on it and come to rob them, I did not expose these to the public. Without the ability to guard wealth, it is best not to reveal any wealth, or else unneeded trouble will be attracted and even potentially killing. But it's different now. My Azure Dragon School is fated to rise in power, so it is time to take these things out as well, or else others would mock us. As my Azure Dragon School rose to a first-rate school, yet only has the framework of a second-rate school. Li Jiangqing said, "Lord School Head, you truly carefully thought this out and thoroughly planned all this. This is all really admirable." At that instant, Chu Feng couldn't help but cup his hands towards Li Jiangqing in respect. He discovered that the old man Li Jiangqing was truly not simple. Him hiding his name in the core zone for all these years and becoming a guard elder was not in vain. He hiddenly dug up many good seedlings. And right now, after resuming his position of the head of the school, the good seedlings could also get developed well. Also, Li Jiangqing even set up entirely new school rules. It caused the Azure Dragon School to have a completely new look, and it really did give out the might of a sudden rise in power. What is there to be admirable about? As the head of the school, I let my Azure Dragon School decline to such a state. I truly shame my ancestor. Li Jiangqing very powerlessly sighed. School head, the decline of the Azure Dragon School wasn't created by you, so there is completely no need to blame yourself. Rather, right now, the Azure Dragon School is even rising by your hands. If he knew about this, he would certainly feel proud for you. At that instant, Chu Feng was imagining how Li Jiangqing would react if he told him about the survival and possibility of revival of the Azure Dragon founder. If my ancestor is still here, that would be great. No need to mention such unpleasant things, Chu Feng. Actually, today, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is about your family. I know that after experiencing the pain of your family's extermination, you are afraid that your other family members would be harmed. So that's why you set up arrangements for them to be located in a hidden place. I also know that even though the current Azure Dragon School has become a first-rate school, it does not have the power to guarantee your family's complete safety. However, your family members are still young, and they are currently in the prime age for martial cultivation. Do not waste such a precious time period. So, these things are for you. Bring them back and give them to your family for cultivation. Li Jiangqing pushed the middle-level mysterious technique as well as the rank 6 martial skills over to Chu Feng. Lord School Head this. Seeing that, Chu Feng was a bit overwhelmed by his kindness. Although he really did want those things, they were the Azure Dragon School's school foundation treasures. So how could he so selfishly take it back to his family for cultivation? Don't say this or that. These will only be excessive in my Azure Dragon School. The future still needs you to lead it onto the path of rising power. Sooner or later, this Azure Dragon School will be yours. So naturally, these martial skills are yours. Li Jiangqing forcibly stuffed the martial skills into Chu Feng's hands. Chu Feng, this old guy has spent quite a bit on you to rope you in with him. Take them. After all, in the future, it is fated that you will work hard for this Azure Dragon School. A few insignificant martial skills can be said to be the compensation taken early. Eggy curled her lips and said, "Thank you, Lord School Head, but I guarantee that I will not let this mysterious technique and these martial skills be passed down to outsiders." Chu Feng still accepted the mysterious technique as well as the martial skills, and he put them in his cosmos sack. Haha, if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't have handed them over to you. Seeing that Chu Feng accepted them, Li Jianqing's smile became more and more happy. Then he said to Chu Feng, "Actually, I have a second thing that I want to tell you. This can very possibly be a rare chance for my Azure Dragon School to rise greatly." "What is it?" Chu Feng curiously and closely asked. "Chu Feng, let me ask you first. Right now, what is the Azure Dragon School lacking the most?" Li Jianqing answered with a question. "The Azure Dragon School has the resources. So what is lacking is some foundation. Foundation needs to be accumulated gradually, so the most important thing right now are excellent disciples." Chu Feng replied, "That's right. Currently, what my Azure Dragon School requires the most are excellent, talented disciples. However, in order to attract such disciples to enter my Azure Dragon School, the fame of my Azure Dragon School must be raised higher." Although the battle between you and Gong Luyun raised quite a bit of commotion, people only half believe and half doubt. They do not believe that my Azure Dragon School is equipped with such strength. However, right now, there is a chance to prove my Azure Dragon School, a chance to prove you and me. A few days later, the annual 100 School Gathering will begin. This 100 School Gathering is held by the Lingyun School. It is a grand occasion where all the first-rate schools in the Azure Province are gathered. In this occasion, the various disciples and school heads will have a fight. The winner of the fights will enter the school rankings. Right now, where the Azure Dragon School will rank within first-rate schools will depend on this 100 School Gathering. If my Azure Dragon School is able to stand highly and enter the top 10 within the first-rate school rankings at once, I believe that it will have quite a bit of helping force for the rise of my Azure Dragon School. Li Jianqing narrated. "Indeed, this 100 School Gathering is a rare chance. Lord Schoolhead, don't worry. In the fights between the disciples from other schools, I, Chu Feng, will do my best, and I won't disappoint the school or you." Chu Feng solemnly vowed and guaranteed. "Haha, your words are already enough. I am clear what strength you have. But today, the most important thing that I looked for you to discuss is this last thing." As Li Jianqing spoke to that point, his smile became a bit strange. "Lord Schoolhead, speak whatever is in your mind." Chu Feng curiously asked. "Oh, Chu Feng, do not blame me for this matter." Li Jianqing suddenly put his smile away and his face became serious. "Lord Schoolhead, what is it?" Chu Feng's head was filled with fog because of him. "I decided on my own and I said a marriage for you," Li Jianqing said. "What?" After Li Jianqing spoke, it frightened Chu Feng quite a bit. He couldn't help but widen his eyes greatly, and he asked with incomparable astonishment, "Lord Schoolhead, I never asked you to find a wife for me, so why did you decide a marriage?" "Chu Feng, don't get too agitated for now. Slowly listen to what I have to say. The origin of this fiancé is not small. You have heard of the Jade Maiden School, right?" Li Jianqing asked in reply. "Jade Maiden School." After hearing those 3 words, Chu Feng instantly smiled and he was interested. Perhaps Chu Feng didn't know much about other schools. Chu Feng did know quite a bit about the Jade Maiden School because almost every single male in the Azure Province knew the Jade Maiden School. The Jade Maiden School, it was a special school. It only took in females and not males because within the Jade Maiden School, no matter if it were mysterious techniques or martial skills, they were only suitable for females to cultivate. Although it was only open to females, the requirement for disciples was still very strict. Not only did they need outstanding talent, they also needed a decent face. Exactly because of that, the Jade Maiden School was simply the sacred land in which all males yearned for. The female disciples in the Jade Maiden School were the goddesses in countless males' hearts. Pride came from being able to marry a disciple from the Jade Maiden School, and they felt that it was something that gave a lot of face. It was because the Jade Maiden School wasn't only a school for looks. Although there were very few number of people in the school, as there wasn't even 10,000 people in the entire school, and they only had a few hundred core disciples, their strength were all very strong. It was a school that could be ranked in the top 5 within first-rate schools in the Azure province. That caused the disciples from the Jade Maiden School to naturally hang the label of being excellent. Of course, that made them extremely prideful, and the males who caught their eyes were rare within rare. It was difficult on top of difficult if one wanted to have them as a wife. So, even though the disciples from the Jade Maiden School were not enough to insanely move Chu Feng's heart, they still caught Chu Feng's curiosity. What are you moved? Seeing Chu Feng's wonderful expressions, Li Jianqing smirked and said, even if it is a disciple from the Jade Maiden School, there are good ones, and there are bad ones. School head, don't beat around the bush. What kind of fiancé did you choose for me? Chu Feng chuckled and asked. Heh, I guarantee that you will be satisfied. She is the #1 disciple in the Jade Maiden School, one titled as the girl from drawings, Yan Ruyu. TN. Yan face Ru like you Jade equals a face like Jade. Yan Ruyu. Chu Feng's eyes lit up, and a hint of surprise couldn't avoid emerging onto his face. He had heard of the Jade Maiden School, so naturally, he knew about Yan Ruyu. Yan Ruyu was an absolute beauty. Her appearance was like a fairy from stories. When she was young, she already charmed countless males, and even females were moved by her beauty. From that, she gained the title of Girl from Drawings. Also, Yan Ruyu was a martial cultivating genius. Although she wasn't really a young girl anymore, she was not even 19 years old. She already had the cultivation of the 5th level of the profound realm, and she was one of the famous characters within the young generation of the Azure province. However, there was something Chu Feng was curious about. The disciples from the Jade Maiden School were proud and arrogant. As the #1 disciple, no matter if it was in terms of appearances or cultivation, no one could be compared to Yan Ruyu in the Jade Maiden School. She could rise to the heavens from all the praises she got, and she was an existence that was treated like a goddess. How could such a female decide to marry him? Although the current Azure Dragon School was already a first-rate school, Chu Feng knew that the Azure Dragon School and the Jade Maiden School were simply incomparable to each other even in discussions. The weight of the title, #1 disciple of the Azure Dragon School, was really quite light, and it shouldn't even be put in Yan Ruyu's eyes. Ha, boy, you're not doubting my words, are you? Li Jianqing smiled and said as he looked at Chu Feng's face, which was full of suspicion. To be honest, I am indeed very curious how you did that. Chu Feng chuckled and asked, not hiding the truth. Back when I was young, I was still a beautiful and elegant young man with extraordinary grandeur. The school head of the Jade Maiden School and me were actually fated for marriage. However, because of various reasons, we could not go on the same road, but she was always thinking about me, and she has not married even once up until now. Hearing Chu Feng's question, Li Jianqing waved his big sleeve and unrestrainedly bragged about his outstanding past. As he looked at Li Jianqing's foul appearance, Chu Feng had quite some trouble imagining that he was a beautiful young man back when he was young. However, he still curiously asked, School head, what happened after that? After that, the news of my Azure Dragon School becoming a first-rate school was spread out, so she sent a letter to me, hoping that we can set up an alliance by arranging a marriage between you and Yan Ruyu. Although the two of us cannot be together, she hoped that her favorite disciple and my favorite disciple can become one. Li Jianqing said. After hearing those words, Chu Feng couldn't help but take in a breath of cool air, and he looked at Li Jianqing once again. No matter what, he could not see why the head of the Jade Maiden School always thought of Li Jianqing and never forgot about him. So Chu Feng said with incomparable shock, I never would have thought that you had such charm. You damn brat, what you mean by that? You doubt my charm? Seeing Chu Feng's surprised expression, Li Jianqing was quite angered. He followed up and said, pack up. We will go today. Go where? Chu Feng was confused. I'll bring you to see the woman who was captivated by me, and whether she is as crazy about me as before. As we do that, I'll let you see your fiancé, Yan Ruyu. Li Jianqing replied, no need to pack up. Let's go right now. As Chu Feng spoke, he whistled towards the air. Very quickly, the top-quality white-headed eagle, Little White, appeared from the air and it flew down. Chu Feng leapt into the air and landed on it. This boy is quite impatient. Seeing that, Li Jianqing helplessly shook his head, and after that he also leaped and brushed up onto the white-headed eagle. The one old and one young from the Azure Dragon School hurried towards the Jade Maiden School. The mountain range in which the Jade Maiden School was located was very small. However, the scenery was abnormally pretty. Tall mountains, flowing waters, rainbows floating around and clouds lingering around the mountain peaks. It was beautifully tall and big, as if it was a land of fairies. The Jade Maiden School was built on the peak of the mountain range. The path uphill was quite steep, and normal people could not climb it. So, if one wanted to enter the Jade Maiden School, they needed a martial cultivation expert to lead them. So, the disciples from the Jade Maiden School were from noble families, and they were innately beautiful. Currently, the 100 School gathering was nearing, and as one of the top 5 schools, the Jade Maiden School naturally wanted to go further in this year's 100 School gathering. So, no matter if it was the disciples or elders, they were nervously preparing and picking the most elite disciples and elders to get ready to head towards the 100 School gathering. Although there were only a few people who were going to stand out in the 100 School gathering, selecting a few good disciples to help with the grandeur would give more face at the end. And on such a day, a white-headed eagle streaked through the air and landed directly into the Jade Maiden School's core zone. That caused the Jade Maiden School to be on high alert. Countless disciples and elders aggressively surrounded them. Who are you? The Jade Maiden School forbids males from entering. What intentions do you two have by intruding without permission? As expected of the sacred land that all males in the Azure province yearned for, the Jade Maiden School, not to mention the young female disciples who were quite gorgeously dressed. Even the elders didn't look like old grandmothers. Although the traces of age were left behind on their faces, it could still be seen that they were certainly beauties when they were young. Truly disappointing. I even thought that there would be quite a few beauties gathered in the Jade Maiden School, which was titled as the gathering area of the Azure Province's beauties. It turns out that they are only ordinary. Not a single one can be comparable to my little Rue and my little May. Of course, it would be impossible for them to be compared to my Eggy. Nonsense. Who's yours? If you dare to have any thoughts about me, I'll castrate you. However, such a big group of beautiful females could not enter Chu Feng's eye. But even so, Chu Feng's gaze still shot everywhere. He especially attacked the convexing areas of the females as well as the snow-white, beautiful legs under their skirts. What are you looking at? Little pervert, if you look any more, I'll scoop your eyes out. Chu Feng's unrestrained gaze caused the little faces of the Jade Maiden School's female crowds to redden as they pointed at Chu Feng and loudly reprimanded. Oh, you aren't allowing me to look. If you don't allow it, cover yourself more tightly. Why else would you reveal so much if it's not for looking? Chu Feng curled his lips and stared even more ferociously. I am the head of the Azure Dragon School, Li Jianqing, and I received your school head's invitation to come here. Seeing that, Li Jianqing quickly stood out. At that instant, sweat beaded his forehead because he discovered that Chu Feng was really an imp who stirred up troubles. If he did not report where he came from, there was truly going to be a huge battle. Head of the Azure Dragon School, which means that the little pervert is Senior Yan's. After speaking those words, everyone in the Jade Maiden School were stunned. Every single one widened their mouths, and they cast their gazes of disbelief at Chu Feng. They already knew about the marriage between the Jade Maiden School and the Azure Dragon School, but they never would have thought that the person who was set to marry Yan Ruyu was a little lewd brat like him. Despite feeling disbelief, after knowing Li Jianqing's and Chu Feng's status, the elders from the Jade Maiden School did not dare to be disrespectful. They quickly welcomed them into the main hall of the Jade Maiden School, and before they even stepped into the main hall, a graceful middle-aged female led a group of beauties, and walked out of the main hall to quickly greet them. That female had quite a good figure and quite good looks as well, especially the noble grandeur that came from her body. It was incomparable to any females on scene. The most important thing was that from her, Chu Feng felt strong aura that was not inferior to Li Jiangqing. That woman was an expert in the 8th level of the profound realm. After the woman appeared, all the elders and disciples from the Jade Maiden School quickly went up to pay their respects. From all that, Chu Feng knew that she was the head of the Jade Maiden School. However, the most shocking thing to Chu Feng was that a middle-aged female who had both looks and strength, the grand head of the Jade Maiden School, was tightly staring at the old and ugly Li Jiangqing. Within her gaze, there was even a special emotion surging forth. After a while, she said with deep feelings, "Jiangqing, you are finally willing to see me. Damn, this isn't true, is it? What is this? Was it really as how Li Jiangqing said it was, and he really captivated the soul of the head of the Jade Maiden School?" At that instant, Chu Feng's widely opened his mouth from shock, because it meant that Li Jiangqing did indeed speak the truth. He really captured the heart of the Jade Maiden School's head, to the point that she had never forgotten about him. But looking back at the difference between the two persons' appearance, people still truly felt that it was inconceivable. In reality, not only was Chu Feng shocked, even the elders and disciples from the Jade Maiden School were so shocked that they could not care for themselves. However, they could only shock themselves for a bit. There was no one who dared to raise any questions because, in the Jade Maiden School, no one dared to offend the school head. After that, the head of the Jade Maiden School even specially set up a feast to treat Chu Feng and Li Jiangqing. Chu Feng sat next to Li Jiangqing, and as no one was paying attention, he secretly went over to Li Jiangqing's ear and said, "Lord School Head, you are quite awesome. You said that you had some fated marriage with the head of the Jade School head. Does that mean that you captured her heart when she was young?" Chu Feng's words were not said without reason, because the difference in age between the two was simply too big. Li Jiangqing was a standard little old guy, and even though the head of the Jade Maiden School was not that young, she did not pass the Middle Ages. She was even the type who maintained herself well. It was very hard for Chu Feng to think how the two of them intertwined with love. "You damn brat, what are you thinking about? Don't you know that the mysterious techniques the Jade Maiden School cultivate are very special? As long as they don't break their chastity, they can be forever young." So, although the head of the Jade Maiden School seems so young, in actuality, she is only 2 years younger than me. Li Jiangqing quietly replied. "Damn, so awesome." Chu Feng was incomparably astonished. He never would have thought that there was such a mysterious technique in the world. He truly learnt something new. However, the most astonishing thing was that the head of the Jade Maiden School, as well as the elders, could guard their bodies for so many years. It was truly impressive. That required quite some perseverance. When she saw the private conversation between Li Jiangqing and Chu Feng, the head of the Jade Maiden School even thought that Chu Feng was impatient and wanted to see his fiancée. So she asked a female disciple, "Where's Ruyu? Why isn't she here to welcome the guests?" Reporting back, Senior Yan said she felt a bit sick, so she isn't going to participate in today's feast. That disciple replied timidly, "Oh." The head of the Jade Maiden suspiciously blinked her eyes but didn't ask anything more. She only apologetically said to Chu Feng, "Chu Feng, I am really sorry. Raya's health is preventing her from coming, so I'm afraid you cannot see her today. But it's fine. Tomorrow you will be going with us to the 100 school gathering, and at that time I can arrange a chance for you two to meet together alone." "Heh, you are too polite. I, Chu Feng, came to this place to visit you and I have no other goal." Chu Feng smiled embarrassedly. "Chu Feng, if that Yan Ruyu is truly sick, then whatever. However, if she is faking sickness, that means she is dissatisfied with you, right?" At the same time, Egge's voice rang out in Chu Feng's body. "Of course I know, but even if she is satisfied towards me, I still need to be satisfied towards her." Chu Feng was quite displeased in his heart, and his favorable impressions towards Yan Ruyu went from 0 to negative. On that day, Chu Feng and Li Jiangqing was invited to stay for the night. On the next day, they followed the Jade Maiden Schools group and headed towards the Lingyun School together to participate in the 100 School gathering. In order for better communication between Chu Feng and Yan Ruyu, the head of the Jade Maiden School specially arranged for the sedan chair Chu Feng was in to be next to the sedan chair Yan Ruyu was in. However, the efforts were in vain, as Yan Ruyu was still unwilling to leave. Not to mention chatting, Chu Feng didn't even know what she looked like. And naturally, Chu Feng would not be so low as to take the lead to beg to see Yan Ruyu. On the other hand, Li Jiangqing and the head of the Jade Maiden School talked about what they liked. They chatted and laughed as though no one was around them, and it caused many people to be speechless. After a day of traveling, the Jade Maiden Schools group even met another school, and it was the first-rate school who ranked as 4th, the Swordless School. The Swordless School was also invited to the 100 School gathering, and the head of the Swordless School even shamelessly requested to walk along the Jade Maiden School. Because she did not want to fight faces, the head of the Jade Maiden School could only allow it. But then, the #1 disciple from the Swordless School, Nanggong Xiao, was even more shameless as he came in front of Yan Ruyu's sedan chair and requested to meet her. At that instant, Chu Feng, who sat in the sedan chair which was next to Yan Ruyu's, couldn't resist, but to spread his spirit power out. Because of that, he heard the following interactions. This Nanggong Xiao is a shameless person. I don't want to meet him, so tell him to leave. An arrogant yet still gentle voice rang out, and it was undoubtedly Yan Ruyu. Senior, I suggest that you meet Nanggong Xiao. Why? Think about it. Right now, the school head arranged a marriage with Chu Feng, and because of her face, it is not good for you to refuse. However, who is Chu Feng? He's like a toad. Because the school head is forcing this, he is truly going to benefit greatly from this. Pretending to be sick isn't a method, since it wouldn't be good if the school head gets angered. Nanggong Xiao already loves you, and he is also the #1 disciple in the Swordless School. No matter if it is in terms of strength or status, he is far above Chu Feng. If he knows that you have a fiancé, he will certainly be displeased, and with his temper, it's likely that he will directly attack Chu Feng. Coincidentally, right now Chu Feng is here, so why not use Nanggong Xiao to give Chu Feng a lesson? So that can let Chu Feng know that he's in trouble and back away. And it can also let our school head see how useless Chu Feng is. Perhaps she will change her mind and cancel the marriage between you and Chu Feng. Is that fine? Wouldn't she be unhappy? Why wouldn't it be fine? It is the best method right now. If you miss this chance, I'm afraid that the marriage between you and Chu Feng will be set. That's fine. God damn, these two women, they dare to say that I'm a toad. Chu Feng, who heard everything, was extremely furious. Hey, Chu Feng, your fiancé has quite some methods, huh? What are you planning to do now? Eggy giggled, and she simply added oil to the fire. Damn fiancé. Even if she gave me presents, I would not have wanted them. Yet now, you want me to know that I'm in trouble and back away. Fine, today, I'll give her no road to retreat. A tall and big male with a pretty face stood outside of Yan Ruyu's sedan chair. The male was standing there, and even the normally proud core disciples from the Jade Maiden School were deeply attracted by him. Within some of their gazes, there was a bit of love and admiration. That person was the #1 disciple from the 4th-ranked school in the Azure province, Nanggong Xiao of the Swordless School. He was a genius who entered the 5th level of the Profound Realm at the age of 20. Nanggong Xiao did like the gazes of love and admiration from the Jade Maiden School's disciples. If it was any other time, he would have already went over and started a conversation. However, right now, he did not dare. He pretended to stare at Yan Ruyu's sedan chair with deep emotions. Whoosh finally, the tightly closed door was opened, and female with a beautiful figure as well as a good appearance walked out. After that female appeared, every female disciple from the Jade Maiden School was completely outshined because That female truly had a quite good appearance, a protruding front and a behind that stuck out. Those who wanted chests had the chests, and those who wanted waists had the waists. Both her figure and face were of top quality, especially her white skin. It was as smooth as jade, and it was extremely attracting. "Junior Baishi, how is it? Is Junior Yan willing to see me?" After seeing the beautiful female, Nan Gongxiao quickly went up and asked. Although that beauty was not Yan Ruyu, she was still the number 2 beauty in the Jade Maiden School. Like her name, she looked quite abnormally white. The most important thing was that she was Yan Ruyu's closest sister, so Nan Gongxiao did not dare to be disrespectful towards Baishi. However, seeing that you have such sincerity, Senior Yan decided to meet you. As Baishi spoke, she cast her gaze towards Yan Ruyu's sedan chair. At that moment, when the door on the sedan chair opened again, everyone couldn't help but send their gazes over because, at that very instant, an absolute beauty stepped out of the sedan chair and entered everyone's line of sight. That female had excellent figure, comparable to Su Ro, a sweet face comparable Su Mei. It was as if she was the combination of both Su Ro and Su Mei. The most important thing was that her skin was even whiter than Baishi. It was simply like snow, yet there were dots of red. Truly, red permeated through white, and water could be pinched out. With a single glance, one's heartbeat would quicken, and then they were really tempted to go up and have a touch. It was a type of feeling where it was worth it to die today, as long as you could touch that female once. That person was the number 1 disciple of the Jade Maiden School, Yan Ruyu, and as expected of the number 1 beauty of the Jade Maiden School. After she appeared, even Baishi seemed quite a bit more ordinary. At that area, there was not a single person who could be compared to that female. "Oh, your fiancé is quite pretty, huh?" At that instant, through the cracks of the sedan chair, Chu Feng was able to see Yan Ruyu's appearance, and Eggy gave a rare praise to that woman. "How is she pretty? She is too far away from my Eggy." Chu Feng curled his lips, and what he said came from his heart. Although Yan Ruyu was indeed very beautiful from Chu Feng's perspective, she was only on the same level as Su Ro and Su Mei. From all the females that Chu Feng had seen before, the most beautiful was Eggy. Her perfect figure, her perfect face, every expression, every action, all of that emanated a special grandeur that no one else had. When she was gentle, she was a pure sacred lady. When she was wild, she was still an alluring woman. She was simply incomparable to this world's females. Of course, originally, she didn't even come from this world. At least in terms of outer appearance, Eggy was near perfect in Chu Feng's heart. Following that should be the purple-clothed young lady he met in the White Tiger Mountain Range. Chu Feng could not forget the clear eyes she had, as well as her glamorous face. Her beauty could truly be said to destroy counties and cities, and was a rarity in the world. Although the young lady's strength was abnormally terrifying, as she had the legendary divine body, a ruthless heart, didn't care what methods she used, and was a truly dangerous character, Chu Feng had to admit that she was the only female who could be compared to Eggy. She was truly a beauty in the demonic level. Also within the Su sisters, one was like an alluring spirit, and one was as sweet as honey. Both had their special places, but they were both bewitching and beauties that could not be easily found. As for Yan Ruyu, despite having a face that was comparable to Su Mei and a figure that was comparable to Su Ro, she only matched the strong points of the two, but did not exceed their strong points. So, if Chu Feng were to judge her prettiness, she could only be on the same level as Su Ro and Su Mei. Of course, being able to do that did not shame the name of beauty. That is, the female who is more beautiful than me hasn't been born yet, eh? As her beauty was mentioned, Eggy proudly stuck her chest out. Although the girl was slightly small, her pair of evil weapons were not small at all. If Chu Feng saw that scene, his nose would certainly be bleeding. Junior Yan, back in that year, after separating from the 100 school gathering, a year has passed. I, Nangong Xiao, have missed you. After seeing Yan Ruyu, Nangong Xiao could not control his own emotions anymore. He excitedly opened up a happy smile and quickly walked forward. He wanted to get closer to Yan Ruyu and take some small advantages from her. Ah, Senior Nangong, males and females are different, so it is best not to get too close to one another. Besides, currently, Senior Yan is already arranged to be married, so it is not too convenient for you to get too close. However, before letting Nangong Xiao go near, Bai Shi stood up and stopped Nangong Xiao. She said her words extremely loudly, and she even intentionally looked towards Chu Feng's sedan chair, as she wanted to Chu Feng hear about it. Junior Bai Shi, what are you talking about? Junior Yan has an arranged marriage. When was that? Who set the arranged marriage with Junior Yan? Indeed, after knowing that matter, Nangong Xiao's expression changed greatly. With fury, hatred, anxiousness, and annoyance, he asked, on this topic, even Senior Yan cannot do anything about it because it is not her wish, but the school head's wish. As for Senior Yan's fiancé, I'm sure you have heard of him as well. He's the current #1 disciple of the Azure Dragon School, Chu Feng. Bai Shi helpless sighed and said, Chu Feng, he's that little brat from the second-rate school. How is he even worthy for Senior Yan? After hearing Chu Feng's name, Nangong Xiao's face even turned purple from anger. Although Chu Feng's big name was abnormally famous in the past few days, he, Nangong Xiao, did not even put Chu Feng in his eyes because he felt that Chu Feng was trash with false might. Yeah, if Senior Yan marries Chu Feng, it will truly be sticking a fresh flower into cow crap. With a face full of grievance, Bai Shi acted as though she was being forced to marry. On the other hand, Yan Ruyu stood on the side and didn't say anything at all. She only looked at Chu Feng's sedan chair, and complicated emotions were filled on her sweet face. Junior Yan, don't worry. I will absolutely not let you marry that second-rate school trash. Right now, I'll go and talk about this with your school head and get her to cancel the marriage between you and Chu Feng. Nangong Xiao solemnly vowed, then after speaking, he turned around and walked. God damn, who do you think you are to be qualified to cancel other people's marriage? Just at that time, an explosive yell rang out and Chu Feng finally came out. Who are you? After seeing Chu Feng, Nangong Zhao's sword-like brows slanted inwards and he coldly questioned. Senior Nangong, he's Chu Feng. But before even letting Chu Feng reply, Bai Shi walked forward, pointed at Chu Feng and spoke. You're Chu Feng. Nangong Xiao was a bit surprised, but quickly after, eerie killing intent emerged into his gaze. That's right. I'm your grandfather, Chu Feng. Chu Feng stuck his chest out, raised his head, and he put both of his hands on his waist. Damn, trash like you even dare to appear in front of me. Today, I will give you a lesson for Junior Yan. I'll let you know that you are still unqualified to marry her. Nangong Xiao was even worried about having no excuse to take care of Chu Feng. He never would have thought that Chu Feng would insult him like that. So it incidentally gave him a reason to attack Chu Feng. The boundless profound power condensed in the air, and like a huge mountain, it crashed down onto Chu Feng. Although that strike could not kill Chu Feng, Nangong Xiao felt that with his cultivation, it would certainly put Chu Feng to the point of half-death. It was the best chance to perform in front of Yan Ruyu, and it was the best chance to display his manly grandeur. After Nangong Xiao attacked, almost all of the disciples from the Jade Maiden School on scene looked forward to it. Cold smiles were hung on the corners of their mouths, because they really held Chu Feng in contempt. From the bottom of their hearts, they truly did not want Yan Ruyu to marry Chu Feng, but they could not do anything about it, or else they would not be giving the school head any face. No one dared to attack Chu Feng. So, Nangong Xiao attacking Chu Feng suited their intentions as well. It was the same as representing them, to give Chu Feng a lesson. At that instant, they even hoped that Nangong Xiao could pat Chu Feng to death with that one palm. After all, it would be even more fulfilling because they, who were always proud, felt that weak people were not even worthy enough to have any feelings towards them. If they did, they were looking to die. However, Chu Feng was obviously going to disappoint them. Just as the profound power was going to land on him, Chu Feng raised his hand and palmed. As the origin power shot in all directions, The boundless profound power exploded and scattered. Strong energy ripples forced the surrounding disciples from the Jade Maiden School to keep on backing away. Immediately, cries of surprise rang out. That boy actually blocked Nangong Xiao's attack. At that instant, the flowery faces of all the disciples from the Jade Maiden School lost color and changed greatly. On their charming little faces, the word shock was written on them. They could feel that Chu Feng had the cultivation of the 9th level of the origin realm. Although it was quite decent for Chu Feng to have that cultivation at that age, he shouldn't have had any ways to fight against the profound realm. However, with the cultivation of the 9th level of the origin realm, Chu Feng easily broken Nangong Xiao's attack. The battle power which crossed an entire realm was simply unbelievable. At that instant, everyone couldn't help but have a thought. Was the rumor truly true, and Chu Feng, with the cultivation of the 7th level of the origin realm, really did defeat an expert in the 4th level of the profound realm? Brat, you do have some methods, but after taking that, I wonder if you can take this as well. As the first strike failed, Nangong Xiao felt that his face was non-existent, so this time he did not restrain himself. He used an extremely strong rank 6 martial skill. When that martial skill was displayed, the entire sky seemed to dim down and lose color. The overpowering profound power formed into a boundless vortex in the air as it surged and rolled around. Finally, it became a huge sword that laid horizontally in the air. The sword was a dozen meters or so long, and it emitted frightening power, as though nothing could block a strike from it. At that instant, with terrifying power, it stabbed towards Chu Feng. Look, it's the Swordless School's foundation martial skill. Last year, in the 100 school gathering, Nangong Xiao used this skill to tie with Senior Yan. As they looked at the huge sword condensed by profound power and emanated strong pressure, the people on scene couldn't help but take in a breath of cool air as fear emerged onto their faces. It was because Nangong Xiao's attack was extremely powerful. Within the disciples from the Jade Maiden School on scene, other than Yan Ruyu, almost no one else could block it. Even if Yan Ruyu came out, she could only block it but not break it. Ah, it seems like Chu Feng is dead. After that skill was displayed, almost everyone felt that the outcome was set. Even if Chu Feng really had fearfully abnormal talent with so much battle power that it could rise to the skies, as he was able to break a profound realm attack with the cultivation of the origin realm, they still felt that Chu Feng would absolutely not be able to block that attack. HMPH, empty might. But as he looked at the huge sword which had oppressive pressure and contained terrifying power, Chu Feng did not dodge or avoid it. He clenched one of his fists and threw a punch towards the air. However, the power that punch contained was several times stronger than before. Asterisk boom asterisk after punching, even the sky trembled, and when the formless power of the fist struck that huge sword, the originally incomparably sharp huge sword split inch by inch, and at the end, it shattered and disappeared in the air. Heavens, look! The Swordless School's foundation martial skill got destroyed by Chu Feng with one punch. As they looked at that scene, almost everyone was dumbfounded because such a scene surpassed their imagination, and it did not belong within reason anymore. How is this possible, this brat actually? At the same time, the face of the displayer of the martial skill, Nangong Xiao, turned ashen. The martial skill was his strongest one, and it was even his trump card. He originally wanted to defeat Chu Feng in one strike, but he never would have thought it would be so easily dissolved. At that instant, he simply did not know what to do, and he was deeply provoked. You want to give me a lesson with this bit of skill? You truly overestimate your capabilities. Just at that time, Chu Feng suddenly attacked. His body flashed, and like a ghost, he appeared in front of Nangong Xiao. He raised his leg and kicked Nangong Xiao onto the ground. As the crowd was staring, he swung his arms and strongly slapped Nangong Xiao's face. Asterisk bang 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 bang, asterisk Chu Feng did not give any mercy, and every slap after the other rang louder than previous one. When the multiple slaps were connected together, They were like firecrackers being set off. It was truly crackling, and Nangong Xiao's brain in between Chu Feng's palms was like a pellet drum. It went back and forth, back and forth. Chu Feng's ferocious slapping kept on ringing out and did not end. The observing crowd were all stupefied, not to mention the other disciples from the Jade Maiden School. Even the eyes of Baishi and Yan Ruyu were perfectly round from widening. Their mouths were slightly opened, and they were completely subdued by the strength Chu Feng displayed. In the world, the most shocking things were not things that were expected. They were the things that you did not believe, things that you felt were impossible yet still forcefully happened in front of you. And things like those were the things that caused the most shock, because you did not believe that they were true before. At that very instant, Chu Feng did that very thing. Before, even though the news of Chu Feng's fearful battle power was already spread out, no one believed that it was true. But at that moment, Chu Feng used facts to tell them that all of it was true. He is too scary. This Chu Feng actually has such horrifying battle power. Nangong Xiao, who is fairly equal to Senior Yan, can't even take a single blow from him. So that means if Yan Ruyu exchanged blows with him, would she also not be able to defeat him? If Senior Yan can't defeat him, doesn't that mean the distance between us is huge? This young man from the Azure Dragon School is unexpectedly so terrifying. Is this the reason why Yan Ruyu was chosen to be his fiancé? Too outstanding. He is clearly so young, yet he has such strong strength. If he reaches our age, how frightening would he be? After being astonished, the gazes that everyone looked at Chu Feng with changed. It was no longer the contempt and disdain from earlier. It was a type of indescribable adoration and admiration. Before, when they looked at the relationship between Yan Ruyu and Chu Feng, they had some sympathy for Yan Ruyu. They felt if she was married to Chu Feng, it would be like a fresh flower stuck on cow crap, so they cried unfairness for Yan Ruyu. However, currently, when they looked at the relationship between Yan Ruyu and Chu Feng, they had incomparable admiration and even envy. They admired that Yan Ruyu had a marriage set with a young man like him. If Chu Feng had such terrifying battle power at such an age, they could completely imagine how strong he would be after he developed for a bit more time. How was the young man from the Azure Dragon School a lewd bumpkin? He was simply an incomparable dragon within men, a real cultivating genius. From their perspectives, in terms of talent, there would not be over 3 people who could be compared to Chu Feng in the entire Azure province. However, when everyone discovered Chu Feng's powerful strength, and their opinions on Chu Feng changed, as they felt that the school head giving Yan Ruyu over to Chu Feng was a correct thing. Chu Feng stood up and swept his gaze of disdain over to Yan Ruyu and coldly said, "Don't go everywhere and say that I'm your fiancé, because you are not even worthy enough for me. Don't go everywhere and say that I'm your fiancé, because you are not even worthy enough for me." After Chu Feng spoke those words, he urged his sedan chair forward and left. He left a crowd of dumbfounded and endlessly stunned beauties behind. If Chu Feng said that others were not worthy, it was still reasonable, as after all, he was a genius. He was qualified to say that. However, who was Yan Ruyu? She was the #1 disciple of the Jade Maiden School. In terms of cultivation, it could be said that Yan Ruyu was the strongest within the young generation of females in the Azure province. In terms of appearances, if Yan Ruyu said she was the #2 beauty in the Azure province, it was likely that no one would dare to stand out and say that they were #1. And in reality, within people's hearts, Yan Ruyu was the #1 beauty in the Azure province. Also, those who understood Yan Ruyu knew that she wasn't as pretentious as other outstanding females, nor was she as arrogant as other females. It could be said that she was the most kind and amiable one in the entire Jade Maiden School. Even though others would not believe it when it was said, that was the truth. Also, Yan Ruyu did not have any scandals with other males. She truly guarded her body, and she was as clean as jade and as clear as ice. That did cause almost all young geniuses from various schools throughout the entire Azure province to be moved by Yan Ruyu, and they wanted to marry that sacred lady, Even the #1 person in the young generation of the Azure province, Dugu Aoyun, indicated in the past that he admired Yan Ruyu quite a bit. Although he did not poke through that paper window, everyone knew that if Yan Ruyu was willing to, Dugu Aoyun would also be willing to take her as his wife. However, such an almost perfect female was said to be unworthy by Chu Feng. Naturally, it caused people to feel shocked. If even Yan Ruyu could not enter Chu Feng's eyes, what kind of female could capture Chu Feng's heart? However, compared to the astonishment of others, Yan Ruyu did not feel any fury at all. Rather, within her eyes, which were as beautiful as the river of stars, there was even a strand of apologetic intention revealed. As she looked at Chu Feng's departing back, she said quietly, "Sorry, I really did not mean to put you in a difficult situation, but..." School head Sidhu, I wonder if you overestimated Nangong Xiao from your swordless school, or if you underestimated Chu Feng from my Azure Dragon School. At the end, this result is quite surprising for you, right? There were 3 silhouettes hidden within a forest. They were the school heads of the Azure Dragon School, the Swordless School, and the Jade Maiden School. It turned out that the commotion caused by the exchange of blows between Chu Feng and Nangong Xiao already alerted the 3 of them. However, when the head of the Jade Maiden School as well as when Li Jiangqing wanted to go up to stop them, they were blocked by the head of the Swordless School, since he said that he wanted to see the fight between the young generation. No matter if it was Li Jiangqing or the head of the Jade Maiden School, they were clear that he wanted to use Nangong Xiao to give Chu Feng a lesson, because not only would that show Nangong Xiao's strength, it would also show the Swordless School's strength. However, at that moment, the result undoubtedly caused the head of the Swordless School to be stunned. Not only him, even the head of the Jade Maiden School felt surprise. School head Lai, I never would have thought that an exceptional genius like him appeared in your Azure Dragon School. It seems like the current rumors are true, and this time, your Azure Dragon School will truly display your abilities greatly in the... After being stunned, the head of the Jade Maiden School smiled and congratulated. HMPH. The isn't only about the cultivation of the disciple. The most important are still the abilities of the school heads. School head Lai, this is the first time that you are participating in the rite. I'm sure that you don't know the strengths of the various school heads. I will only give you a single sentence of advice. It is best to be careful. However, the head of the Swordless School, who had no more face, only coldly snorted, turned around and left. After that, he who shamelessly requested to go along the Jade Maiden School led his Swordless School army and went ahead of them. Li Jiangqing did not even put the actions of the Swordless School in his eyes. Even if the head of the Swordless School talked about cultivation, he was only in the 8th level of the profound realm. Even if he had enmity in his heart and wanted to fight him in the... Li Jiangqing was not afraid of him. On the other hand, Chu Feng's cultivation made him feel happy surprise. After all, Chu Feng was only in the 7th level of the Origin realm a few days ago. Yet now, he was in the 9th level of the Origin realm. It didn't really matter if Chu Feng raised his cultivation again, or if he concealed his cultivation before. But he knew that Chu Feng, who was already outstanding in the 7th level of the Origin realm, would be even more insane when he was in the 9th level of the Origin realm. So he looked very forward to the as well as the #1 disciple from his own school displaying his skills. He would certainly bring back the lost glory of the Azure Dragon School. After a few days of hurrying, Chu Feng and the others finally arrived at the #1 school in the Azure province, the Lingyun School. The Lingyun School was not created on a mountain range. It was created within a plain. It was a vast city, and the creation of it gave out quite a grand atmosphere. Today, the gates to the Lingyun School were open to welcome guests coming from all directions. Almost all of the first-rate schools in the Azure province arrived at that place to keep their appointment in the hosted by the Lingyun School. The various first-rate schools sent out their strongest elites, no matter if they were elders or disciples. Their cultivation was extremely strong because the 100 school gathering was a gathering for displaying one's own strength. There was not a single school who did not want to not give enough face out. So, outside of the Lingyun school, there were white-headed eagles in the air and all sorts of colorful banners on the ground. That scene was indeed a rare one, and it was quite majestic. However, there were always exceptions, and in this, an outlier appeared. It was the Azure Dragon School, who only sent the school head as well as a single disciple. Who are they? I don't seem to recall seeing them from last year. It's the Azure Dragon School, right? They got promoted to a first-rate school this year, and from what I heard, there is only one Azure Dragon School, so I'm sure that it's them. They are too unpresentable, aren't they? They only sent 2 people. A school like this is able to get an invitation to the most important thing is, why are they going with the Jade Maiden School? This is truly a toad eating swan meat. Look at that old man. He isn't the head of the Azure Dragon School, Li Jiangqing, right? How can he be so ugly? He is even talking and laughing to the head of the Jade Maiden School. I can't watch this anymore. At that instant, Chu Feng and Li Jiangqing were riding on a horse, along the head of the Jade Maiden School. They were at the very front of the group. Li Jiangqing and Chu Feng's special treatment attracted the attention of people. In addition to the highly raised Azure Dragon banner, it let the other schools know what their statuses were. But no matter if it was the entrance of the Azure Dragon School or their past position in the Azure province, they were being contemptibly snorted at. Other than the people from the Jade Maiden School, almost no one else had any respect for them. However, Li Jiangqing and Chu Feng were quite at ease. Not only did they ignore the countless gazes of disdain, they even chatted happily, and that infuriated many schools that wanted to set up a relationship with the Jade Maiden School, yet could not. They hiddenly decided if they met Li Jiangqing and Chu Feng they were certainly going to make things difficult for them. Asterisk rumble 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 asterisk. Just as the big army of 100 schools were going to surge into the Lingyun School, a group of people walked out of the Lingyun School. At that instant, almost everyone couldn't help but quiet down because some of the most powerful people in the Azure province were gathered with that group.